The sitting is resumed. Honourable Member for St. Thomas.
You take the call, you got 2 years for me, you could remind me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for acknowledging me. I want at the outset to indicate how happy I am to be able to be a part of this discussion and this developmental period, and to highly commend the government, the Honourable Senior Minister, Member for Christchurch West, and of course, all those persons who would have been an integral part of this physical development plan document and the timely nature in which it has been brought to us. It is extremely necessary at this time in our development. I also want, sir, to indicate that we are all aware that there would have been many physical development plans and upgrades in the previously, and I think this one is so extremely timely because of what we are witnessing on a daily basis as this country continues to develop. Many changes, sir, have been implemented over those past 20 or so years, and support is granted to the numerous changes to suit the times. As the country develops, there will be aspects to be improved, upgraded, and of course new areas to be cited in order for us to help to this national vision to unfold. And therefore, I support whatever has been done and wish to also thank those stakeholders as well as the staff who would have been working assiduously to be able to bring this document to this level, sir. I know too that the general public will be happy as to what is happening, and I believe that the buying process from ordinary people in this country should always be solicited in order for us to know what are their concerns, what are the things that they want to have incorporated. In essence, what is their vision? So that at the end of it all, it is a collaborative effort among all stakeholders to be able to bring it to this level. And so the initiative is extremely important in this critical national matter. I want, Mr. Speaker, to indicate, though, local knowledge in any community or any society for that matter is also very critical. Yes, the professionals will have their way of doing things, but how do you go into communities and not to become familiar with some of the needs and the challenges? And unless local knowledge is solicited or engaged, it leaves a vacuum. It also leaves a dissatisfaction among people who feel because I didn't go to high school, they think I don't have any knowledge. I hear it every day. Because I didn't live this particular place, they feel that I am not of any worth. And so I believe that the local knowledge in this respect will be able to make a difference. And I would want to commend all of those who are working in this exercise to be able to ensure that these initiatives that have been identified will make a difference. And I would mention local knowledge because the Honourable Member for St. Joseph would have made mention of a couple of areas. But we have communities where there are challenges. Challenges meaning bridges, ponds, watercourses, structures, and so on, that it does not only need the intellectual intelligence to put to it, or the intellectual aspects of it, but it also needs that local knowledge so seniors can say, when I was a child, there was a pond over there and they filled it in one day, and that is why we're getting the flooding. That's the kind of conversation that I think now we can go forward with so people can help us as we plan for the future of Barbados to make their own contribution and to shape or reshape whatever has been designed to the satisfaction not only of themselves, but for other persons as well. I also want, Mr. Speaker, to indicate that we have a lot of challenges in the country. We know, especially in rural Barbados, in the Scotland district, as was mentioned earlier by the Honourable Member for St. Joseph, that there are tremendous challenges. The flooding, There are rivers that have been infilled as well. Structures that are collapsing. And I always said, and I've said that within the last couple of months, as a child, I know that the trucks on the road, meaning the trucks that would have carried the sugar cane from the fields to the factories, that those trucks travel on bridges. And I remember as a small child, whenever another large vehicle, like a bus, like the Rockland bus then, which is the one I would be familiar with, would have been coming in the opposite direction, the truck driver was given the opportunity to proceed while the bus would have waited until, because I feel, and I learned from my father, who was a bus driver for like 36 or so years, that was the reason why the weight on the bridges would have been too much for the double vehicles to be passing. And at times too, sir, the roads were so narrow that the two vehicles could not pass there anyhow. Nowadays, we look around, we see container trucks, double ones at that, on a highway, intense traffic, heavy traffic. We see them boring to be able to get over the bridges before the other vehicles. And to my mind, that weight is taking serious effect on the bridge, and the weight that bridge that might have been built before I, who am a septuagenarian now, sir, would have been born. And perhaps no upgrades or anything were done to reinforce those bridges. And I think those are things that we need to look at, and the local knowledge in that respect will be able to assist us to be able to make that change. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to say that we have upgraded our policies and our programs and so on. And I have serious issues with the land use policies, and aspects of the land use policy, let me say that. Because having been born and raised and still live in the constituency of St. Thomas, or the parish of St. Thomas for that matter, I have seen large tracts of land sold off and houses are going up. Yes, we need to make provision for housing. But at the end of the day, sir, we are out there with import bills. I think somebody said today, over $800 million. Perhaps that figure may not be quite correct, sir, but I'm saying Barbadians, especially in rural Barbados, are accustomed planting their own foods. The sugar cane, yes, but they plant the green peas, they plant the vegetables and so on to help to feed us. And unless we take a cognizance of what is happening in Barbados, we are going to use up a lot of good arable land towards building houses and putting up their houses and all that. And then we will not be self-sufficient in what we do. And it reminds me, sir, of a slogan that was made by one of a former senator before, who is now deceased, may the Lord bless her in her grave, who said, grow what you eat and eat what you grow. And we're not eating what we grow at all in the way we would like, because there's limited food. As a matter of fact, we're hearing right now that poultry, the supply is down. And it's because in rural Barbados, we raise our backyard chickens, or ducks, or turkeys. There are some communities now that you live in that you cannot do that kind of agriculture. And so that too is impacting on how we do, or what we do in that respect. I also want to indicate, sir, that yes, we need affordable homes. We need recreational spaces. But I caution everyone to use the wisdom and let it prevail when we're cutting up good prime agricultural land to place such structures on them, the buildings and the play areas and so on. There's still a lot more land in the country that we can use, and in every constituency we can find that kind of land that can be used to make a difference. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to refer to the heart of Barbados as well, where daily we witness many acres of good arable land sold to build these houses. The heart of Barbados is really St. Thomas. I'm not talking about the project right now, that will come in the closure of the closing comments I want to make. But the heart of St. Thomas, of Barbados, is St. Thomas, and that was so aptly designated earlier in the 1990s, and I believe in the late 80s as well, where efforts were made to pull communities together and to help to empower people, both young, middle-aged, and old, to be able to recognize that this parish that we live in, called St. Thomas, has so many qualities, so many advantages that we can all live closer together in a cohesive way, and we can share whatever we produce to be able to reach out and touch lives and turn them around. That physical development plan, sir, the efforts must be lauded. But my emphasis today, sir, is continuously be on the heart of Barbados St. Thomas. Agricultural development, tourism, recreation, transport, our cultural heritage. We heard of housing before, and the agricultural preservation for the food security. Infrastructural works, sir, is another challenge that we have. And our roads were built for centuries, so I'm not even targeting the Deputy Honourable Prime Minister, sir. I'm just saying neglect over the years and the way that our roads are being built now. In the past, there were gutters and water would run off in the gutters and never lift up the tar. The tar was such a strong component in our roads. And now the bitumen is there, the water is just lifting it up. And we need to find other ways of ensuring that the runoff for water happens, because that is what really has torn up nearly 15 to 20 roads in the parish where I live, in St. Thomas. And therefore, we need to look at other strategies in order to make the difference in what is going on across the island, but in particular, sir, I am referring to the area where I live. We also have the challenge, sir, and I hope that aspects of that were taken into consideration, because you know, sir, that the mangrove landfill was developed in St. Thomas way back in the 1980s. And people are just going in and destroying the environment, particularly in the heart of Barbados, St. Thomas, where when you go along to Hyman's Hill, Stony Gully, Vaucluse Road, Canefield, so many different communities, you're just seeing the coconut shells that are coming from somewhere, because I don't even know anybody in St. Thomas sells coconuts along the street. But everything is dumped any and everywhere. I hope that that aspect of it has been taken into consideration, because it would mean that we would need to have another area for disposal of the refuse or the shells and the garbage otherwise. Mattresses, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes you see even the boxes or the containers that parcels come in, and the person's names are on them. It means that those persons may have paid somebody to deposit them at the mangrove landfill, and they put them down in Highland Gully. Something is wrong with the psyche of my people, and I want for them to be, in the same way we're having town hall meetings and other meetings by Zoom for aspects of this same physical development plan to be extended, so local people, ordinary people, and all others can get a chance to see and understand how they are destroying the environment that God has given us in this space we are in, sir. I also want, sir, to move on from the illegal dumping, which is a very big project that I don't want to touch right now, to talk about tourism. And of course, we have so many places in the parish, and I hope consideration would have been given to that as well. Because if you're talking about 7 or 8 locations in the parish of St. Thomas, and we are joining St. Joseph with the Flower Forest, sections of St. Thomas are bordering on the Flower Forest, so I can even include that. But there are no good arteries leading to them. The arteries that must be leading to these places of interest that will bring in the tourism dollars and will generate employment for locals who will come out and sell their produce to the visitors and others. To my mind, that has to take priority as well. And I thank the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Transport and Water Resources, for her kind words this morning about the roads or the arteries in St. Thomas. There is no good road, Mr. Speaker, sir, leading to get visitors, locals, anybody. So I don't go out at night anymore for fear, sir, that I may get ambushed. for fear so that my mother's only beautiful daughter she named after her may not get back home because of the potholes that I'm falling in. So I want to thank the Honourable Minister for her kind words and for her efforts, because she will tell you that sometimes she sees messages from me at 3 in the morning. I can't sleep, so I don't let her sleep either, sir, because I am concerned about what is happening. So I am very proud to hear of Shop Hill Road being fixed and the Bridgefield Road and 1 or 2 others, because I must get a piece of the cake too, in order for us to become a more cohesive government and a Labour Party, sir. And I will never forsake the people of Barbados or those of St. Thomas. So I am happy, sir, for that privilege. But when you see there's a Richmond Hall Gully, and we had a terrible situation there about a week and a half ago, and the fauna and the flora, Harrison's Cave, the 8th wonder of the world in the parish, sir. The Rock Hall Freedom Village that I am still waiting to be able to get that project brought to fruition after almost 20 years, sir. And it is one of those aspects of tourism and our history all embedded in one, ready to take off. The residents are waiting, sir. Barbados is waiting to be a part of what is happening at the Freedom Village, because that is a part of our culture and our heritage, and indeed, sir, our history. The Duke's Bridge that was built using the yolk from the eggs, I understood. The Duke's Bridge is there. That too is an aspect of tourism, but to get to it is another story, sir. The Vault Road, in that road where I live, where the Williams Vault is there, and up until the 1970s, when some of the concrete was falling apart, we could see the lead coffins in there. The Williams family is there, and they owned Richmond Hall, so that is another aspect of it. Also, Mount Hillaby, one of the most beautiful sceneries, Mr. Speaker, you could ever want to stand there and see. And I will say again, when I had asked the BTII, I had written officially and asked them, could you please put a public convenience on top of the hill? Because when people come from wherever in St. Lucie and coming through St. Thomas and going to the airport or going to visit the other places of interest, they need somewhere where they can wash their hands if they eat a mango that they find. If they want to ease their system. To this day, Mr. Speaker, nothing has happened. So this physical development plan, I hope that they've taken that into consideration, that we could go further. Sir, Pori Spring, an area where water runs incessantly, whether there is rain or drought. The guys in that village now have started to do their own small businesses, and I will want them to get the opportunity to have things regularized. I don't want them to be doing anything that is not in keeping with the law. So they must follow the principles, that the health certificates are available, that they have their licenses and so on. I will never encourage anybody to do wrong. But there in Pori Spring, the guys are there doing their own thing to make a living for themselves. And therefore, I'm going to work with them to be able to make sure that it happens. We have the Highland Outdoor Tours that has been closed. You know why? The owners of the big coaches have told their drivers, do not take our buses in there, because the depreciation is too tremendous. So now another wonderful location has been closed for more than 2 years because of the condition of the roads that my honourable member and friend, sir, is going to assist us with as the time goes by. I know that everything cannot be done in the same place, because it is the entire Barbados that has to have the upgrades. But I am relying on it because it is making a living for the locals, as well as bringing in that foreign exchange that we require in order for us to go forward. Also, sir, the heart of Barbados, where we know that for years, and that last administration before us, Mr. Speaker, sir, closed off the heritage location. It embraced all Barbadians at a particular time in the year, especially in the summer. And there was a 5K walk, a 10K run. There were trams and all kinds of things were happening, and people got little passports. They could go in Harrison's Cave, they could go down to the same Highland Outdoor Tours, they could go into Richmond Hall Gully, they could go all over the parish in the coaches to be able to learn of Barbados and the heritage that we have that is such a unique one. That too has stopped. As a matter of fact, the structure that they were working in now, Mr. Speaker, needs so many upgrades that I don't even want to mention that here, but that will be discussed in another area. I want, sir, for us to continue to build the community spirit as well, because that same national heritage location nurtured the people of Allen View. And there was a youth path organization that UNESCO had sponsored for the young people to be able to do projects, to learn about entrepreneurship, to set up their own little businesses and all that. All of that died under the last administration. And a few members of staff are there just surviving to be able to offer information. I hope that the physical development plan includes all of those social needs, not only in the parish of St. Thomas, but across the island. And I recognize that that is enshrined in the document to be able to make a difference in what is happening here. So all of these sites are critical, sir, to our tourism product. But unfortunately, within the recent years and the challenges and so, they have been closed off. We need to have them revived. So I'm praying that that will happen. I mentioned the illegal dumping already, so I'm not going to go to that. But you know what I'm going to go to, Mr. Speaker, sir? Derelict vehicles on our streets. Mechanics are leaving their vehicles on the streets and cordoning off half of a narrow road, like some of the ones I have to pass on a daily basis, and you, sir, have to pass. Or they're taking the parts of them and they're throwing them in the gullies and they're blocking off the water course, and the oil from them is going in. And so many strange things that my people who have boast of free education are engaging in and destroying this environment, this planet that God has put us on to be able to live, share, and enjoy. And therefore, I want to know where in this physical development plan is a plan for those vehicles that they can be perhaps given a warehouse. And I know that this is an idea that the Labour Party has spoken of before. Somewhere that all of those vehicles can be there and their separations, that the mechanics can do what they have to do, take them off the road. And with these PSVs that we have, it is extremely dangerous now, Mr. Speaker, sir, because when they have to drive on one side, they don't care if you're on that one side that is clear. You have the right of way. You have to pray to God that you don't lose your limbs with the kind of illegal activities that are taking place as a result of some of them, not all, who are creating such a difficulty. So I want to see and know where exactly this can be done. Also, those who are repairing household items like appliances, refrigerators, washing machines, and dryers. Almost every community across Barbados, you are seeing people fixing them on the road, taking up that space where the second vehicle going in that direction should pass, and nothing seems to be happening. You know what, Mr. Speaker, this is only my view, but I want to indicate that I've called in and reported and written, and the inspectors came. I don't know when last I saw inspectors, but I understand they came, and these washing machines and so were rearranged in a line, and now we are talking about the epidemic. I mean, I can't call it epidemic, but the disease, dengue, that is impacting on people, because washing machines and so, they will hold in water. And the breeding of those mosquitoes and the other vermin, that will cause problems in this society and bigger health problems than we can ever imagine. So I want for them to not to be stopped, because they're skilled people and they're making a contribution to this country and to their families and their development, but for another location for them to go together and to arrange with one another. This section of the warehouse is mine. These are my things I'm fixing. That section is yours, and live in unity. Barbadians are accustomed living in unity. Just when you go down to the market and you see people selling, this is my space and my big basket, and people sold from there. The next person is next to them, and they sell from there. And if you don't have any more bananas, but this body has spares and the customers come, you share. But I don't understand that we are developing a selfish people and we are boasting about free education. Thank God, Mr. Speaker, I had none. Except at primary school. Thank God I had none, because I would not know then what would happen if I had developed that kind of mentality. And I want for those washing machines, dryers, refrigerators, and so, not to be taken to the dump as such either, but to let those persons pursue their profession, but do it in a way that does not impact on the lives of other road users and other persons who will have to be engaged in activities in those areas. Those guys are extremely skillful, and we cannot kill off services of that nature, we just need to make sure we have somewhere where they can go to be able to do what they have to do. The flyovers, Mr. Speaker, I don't know because I have not been able to read the entire document, because everybody's constituent calls me now and I have to be speaking to them, and the aged and the disabled, and it just goes on and on. I'm sure that the minister's condition is worse if they have this number. So I don't have the time to read it all in the same moment, but flyovers were a part of a Labour Party government previously. And all of the criticisms were coming from the public. When they put up there now and the car fly over, what they're going to do with cars flying over the barriers to do, Mr. Speaker? So we have to plan purposefully as the international world has. Our words are clogged. I left one location, Mr. Speaker, sir, in Blackrock yesterday evening. And it took me nearly an hour and a half to get to St. Thomas. The traffic, and because of the rain, the traffic was so intense. And nobody now is easing anybody from a side road. So you come up a side road and you're waiting, and nobody is easing you. And if it is nighttime, they're flicking on some lights on you, Mr. Speaker, sir, you cannot see. Don't care how good your vision is. The blue light, the orange light, the red light. I've never seen a society fall apart like this. And I know that the police officers or the constabulary cannot do it alone. But we have to put out the ads, make sure that people are conforming, and when they don't conform, find a way of them being punished for the nonsense that some of them are doing. It really is taking away our hearts. But I am sure that if we had those flyovers, it will make travel and movement in the country easier. It's going to be a very costly exercise, but we have to do what we have to do. We were not planning for COVID. But we had to put millions of dollars in COVID because we wanted to save lives. In the same way, we're going to have to put millions of dollars into putting the flyovers, especially the one at Warrens. I've written, I have spoken. Nobody is watching what is happening at Warrens. They don't understand. But the Honourable Senior Minister, the member for Christchurch West, sir, may be able to tell me if there are aspects of it for what is happening at Warrens. The polyclinic is in the corner. When it is not opened on time, long lines are there, and people are just coating and skipping and doing all kinds of strange things at that roundabout at Warrens, that the numbers of vehicles have grown exponentially because of everybody now having a car, which is a good thing. But we are not using our common sense in the way we drive, nor are we looking out for our neighbor as we would like our neighbors to look after us. And therefore, the give and take is not there as a result. So I hope that flyovers are included in what is happening at Warrens. I know I'm coming close to the answer, but I want to touch on signage on the road. I know that there is a plan, and I'm not so sure what level it is at now, for signage to be put up, not just only in communities, but signage across the length and breadth of Barbados. We have put up street lights, one or two of them not burning, but that is understood. Understand that. I am concerned. Almost every junction of a roundabout, Mr. Speaker, sir, people have put up their own signs. Some of them are so high and put up with some thick chains, like chains that you would even tie a bull cow with, if you want to call it that, a bull. And you cannot see if you're driving one of the Swifts, because you're not seeing it. I'm seeing it, Mr. Speaker. If you're driving a Swift, which is a lower car, and you come to the junction, Mr. Speaker, you cannot see what is coming from your right because of the way that they are laid out. Across the length and breadth of Barbados, some people have cans. And now I'm pushing for ordinary folk to be able to get a chance to play their trade. But some of them are even now setting up a big can like the tar can. And they're putting up all kinds of things on them. So when you come down from the Polytechnic, Mr. Speaker, so you can hardly see what is coming from the right that will be coming from the Valley or from St. George, for that matter. I think that those are things that we should really look at and see how we can find further space off the main road that these individuals can sell. It is happening in other parts of the country. It can happen. But the highway, for me, is not the best place. We're having too many accidents. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital is overburdened. Some people get the accidents, they can't get to the Queen Elizabeth, but they can go to a private doctor to get the stitches or whatever after as a result of the accident. And then there's no money because of the cost of living and what is happening in families and so on. So I want that, sir, corrected, where those guys and gals are selling right onto the sign the junction from the roundabout, and that they also have, or some businesses, big businesses. I see one with dog chow. And I'm like, but that could have gone on the side of the building though. Why is that there like a V, upside down V, with this big heavy chain to tell me you're selling dog chow though? My dog can eat food I left over. But it should not be there because it's inhibiting the view of others. For me, that also should be included in the physical development plan. I also, Mr. Speaker, am concerned. Those PSV drivers, particularly the ones that keep on the right indicator, not all of them, Mr. Speaker, are doing wrong. Some are excellent, they're courteous, they look after the children, they look after the seniors, the disabled. So I take my hat off to them and I commend them. But there are others that are overtaking you anywhere on the road, Mr. Speaker, so they won't know you as a speaker in your own vehicle. So they're going to treat you the same way they treat me, or they treat the ordinary little old man or old lady in the street, or the other motorists. And I witnessed it at Eagle Hall, where they're coming from the left lane to go straight up through to Spooner's Hill, but they're hooking the right lane because nothing else is there. The light is on red, and as soon as the light changes, they skip and go over, passing 6 and 8 vehicles. Mr. Speaker, sir, we need to get it right in this country. Barbadians were always well disciplined. And it is not so much the older members of this society, some younger ones who perhaps never got in an accident that had a broken arm yet, so they don't understand. Some are fighting and cursing and doing all kinds of things. But I want for our traffic system to be orderly managed, and I know that the physical development plan will give us guidelines, but we, the citizens, are the ones who are to make it operable. The constabulary members, they are the ones to do what they have to do, because we are having too many serious accidents as a result of the nonsense that some of them are doing. I also want pedestrian crossings, sir. I know I spoke to a former member of the government at that time who would have been a part of the pedestrian crossings, and I queried when the one was to be set up at Jackson, in the last administration when they built the road in Warrens to go up to Jackson, and I had called and personally requested that the pedestrian crossing not be put directly in the roundabout before the tail of your vehicle can get around. And I was told that is how it is, and that is how it will stay. I said, well, sir, but told me sorry, no, Mr. Speaker. But I was in a good mood that day. But the person instructed that the pedestrian crossing be put right there. The lives of too many Barbadians are being threatened when they have to come around the roundabout, and before you can get around the curve to go on the straight, a pedestrian crossing is right there in front of you. I also want a calming light put at the Warrens Polyclinic area as well, Mr. Speaker, because when that light is on, if we could put one for Commonwealth, we could put one for Springer Memorial, we could put one for Charles, we can put one at Warrens. It is one of the mecca of that general area. And it is extremely dangerous. When I use the language, you got to teeth out, but I know that the trans people who don't steal out. It is not fair to us as good citizens when we have to be following those things. And I know, sir, that you will time me 2 minutes, and I just want you to let you know I will just conclude.
Oh, you know that your 2 minutes are already gone.
They're gone, sir?
You
okay.
continue.
Okay.
I have given you 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you're
I've given you 2 minutes.
You're giving the septuagenarian an opportunity, sir. I thank you.
Yeah.
I thank you for respecting the elderly, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, the only final one I want to touch is the vehicles traveling with garage number plates. It seems to me, though, as though some people are making them themselves, and although that may not have been a part of the development plan, to my mind, that has to be incorporated. Some people seem to be just going at a place and having them made and putting them on the vehicle. So somebody who's dear to me had an accident about 2 weeks ago. The person ran in the back, licked up the back of the van, and then sped and turned around. To this day, the police can't find who the body is, because the number plates that they use said what I called them just now, sir, garage plates. Something is definitely wrong there. I want to say, sir, finally, I am glad that this effort has been made to ensure the safety the changes are being introduced, that good governance will take place, and that the initiatives of the team, the distinguished professional team, as well as all others who contributed to the preparation of this national development, physical development policy, sir. I want to commend them for their efforts, and I want Barbadians to work together to make a difference in what we do as a people, because we must remember it is not only about us. It is about every other road user, every other person who wants to plan, who wants to build, who wants to do whatever. We must make it that. And once we work together, we will aspire and we will achieve. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I commend again the Honourable Minister, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West, as well as all other persons in this country, professional or otherwise, who have contributed to this physical development plan. And I pray that as time proceeds, we will be able to see the difference in what goes on in this small rock that we still call the gem of the Caribbean. And that to inform you, sir, and others, St. Thomas is still the heart of Barbados, and we are waiting patiently to be able to make our contribution to national development in the way we started, and that together we can be cohesive as a people, touching lives, turning them around, and making sure that our youth get the opportunity to be able to make their contribution to whatever we set now, so that when the standards are set, they are continued in the generations to come. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you for your kindness.
Honourable Member St. James South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I stand to join the debate on the Physical Development Plan of Barbados, and I want to sincerely start with congratulations for the team that has worked so hard on a very excellent document. I really appreciate it because it means a lot to the people of St. James South, as it does to all the Barbadians. The Physical Development Plan helps us as a country to be able to develop the effective deployment of our land by being able to assign it to the various activities that are necessary. Should I go on, Mr. Speaker?
Continue, Honourable.
Okay. Just making sure we don't have to exit. Good. So the Physical Development Plan is how we're going to deploy our land in order to make the very best use of it, that we can meet the needs of the current population and the future population. And that means looking at taking care of housing, roads, water, management, transport, all business activities, sanitation, recreation, sports, culture, all sorts of things that have to be accommodated on 166 square miles. So that any physical development plan is always informed by the socioeconomic needs of the population, though they're not diverse from each other. You develop it based on the needs that you have identified within your population and the desires of your society. But what you do then is constrained by how much land you have, constrained by how big a population and its demographics, and the particular resources that you have. And for Barbados right now, we are a relatively small population, but we have very limited space. And therefore, the most important job we do as a government really is to develop the plan that is going to help us to meet all these critical needs that people will have throughout the expanse of their life, and then develop the economic and social plan that will give life to those desires. So if that is the case, then one of the things you have to look at when you're developing your physical plan is to look at the structure or the demographic that you have. And in Barbados, we are, as was said earlier, an aging society. At the moment, over 55 years of age, there are approximately 28% of our population is in the over 55 category. Between 25 and 54, there's some 42.69% of our population is in that 25 to 54 category. And one of the most troubling of all is the 15 to 24 age group. Only 12.3% of our population is in that age group, which means we have a small, young population that then has to carry those people who are in the 25 to 54 as they get closer to 54 and carry the over 55s who are at 28%. And therefore, this informs how you're going to go about your socio-economic planning. It means that if you have an extremely young population, then your emphasis will be on things like education and sports and so on. If your population is older, then a vital part of that mix has to be things like health care, wellness, safety, security, housing for your old age, etc. And sir, Barbados has a major challenge in relation to the amount of seniors we have, coupled with the fact that many of them may not have done the retirement planning based on the realities that we're facing now, and find themselves looking at an old age in which they may have challenges with their housing, have challenges with meeting their bills, have challenges with feeding themselves. And with the aged population so large, for them to fail in retirement planning is then going to mean that it's going to be a crisis for government in terms of its services and welfare grants. It is going to be a challenge for the families, which are now smaller and have fewer individuals to carry and care for the needs of the elderly. So we're really sitting on top of a crisis at this point in time, and that is why the type of planning that the Barbados Labour Party offers to Barbados is absolutely vital. We have to be creative, we have to be innovative, and we have to be able to work smart in order to put in place what is needed to avert this crisis that can literally topple our population. And that is why the issue of our population numbers are important. And I believe earlier contribution by one of the other members spoke to that we really need to look at how we're going to increase our population numbers. As the MP with the honor to represent St. James South, it is even more critical for me. Because in St. James South, I have 10,900 people of voting age. It does not account for the ones that are under 18. And those who are under 50 years of age, 4,600 are under 50 years of age. And 6,297 are over 50 years of age. So close to 57.8% of the population of St. James South, Mr. Speaker, are over 50. And if we are to look at the ones that are over 65 altogether, then over 65, I have more than 5,000 people who are over 65 years of age, which means they are into their retirement time. And so, in St. James South, we are faced with a major challenge as to how we are going to enable our seniors to be able to live well, to be in health, and to have sufficient resources to be able to meet their needs. And therefore, the physical development plan must reflect an understanding of what an aged society requires and have it reflected in the physical plan that we're going to use to be able to guide what we're going to do with our land and our resources to make sure that we have the well-being of our people at heart. Now, in order for the strategy of the physical development plan to work well, it's absolutely essential that there is public awareness, that there's education, public education, and that there is engagement. We have a responsibility to have a conversation with the people of Barbados to explain that things are not as they were 20 and 30 years ago. And therefore, the management of your life now has to change significantly, and they need to understand how government is planning in order to help them so that there can be a synergy between what the people want and need and what government puts together in terms of its plans. So what are the characteristics that you would find in a constituency where many of the people are over the age of 60 or 65? One of the things that I've noted is that people are asset rich. They may have homes. They sometimes might have a piece of land that they may have been paying off, but they haven't done anything with it. They may have a piece of land or property that might be left by an older relative that they haven't taken the time to have it transferred and what have you. And so they may be asset rich, but very often they may be cash poor. And this presents an issue, and I will speak to it more directly in a moment. But I also have people who lack assets and also lack cash. And that is a recipe for poverty, deep poverty in your old age. Many of them do not have the adequate retirement resources. And with inflation galloping, it is actively worsening the situation for our seniors. And because this generation had fewer children, their children are not going to be able to cope in being able to assist their parents as they would like, and the abuse and abandonment that we've been hearing about will become a stronger and stronger feature. And therefore, when we are looking at our physical development plan and our economic and social plan to support our objectives, it is important now for us to plan for this group of seniors who find themselves in that situation. So, for example, what may happen, and this is true for many people who they may have come up poor in their early years. They went to school and got an education. They were able to get a job, maybe at an organization, a company, or with government. They've been able to rise through the ranks, and they have been able to retire. And during the time when they were working, they were able to get a mortgage for a home. And very often that mortgage, they may actually acquire it when they're about 45 and just about finish it, just as they are retiring. But what has happened? That by the time they reach age 50 or age 52, their 20-year-old or 23-year-old or 25-year-old is leaving home, has gone to university, may have their own apartment. But those parents may have built a home to accommodate 5 people. But within short order, that house is now empty. They become empty nesters. And so they're left with this house that has to be managed, maintained, etc. But they don't have the people to enjoy and extract the benefit of living on that property. So now when they get to retirement, the challenge now is, how am I going to make sure that I am able to maintain this home? And so you only have to drive around Barbados in some of the older neighborhoods. You only have to drive around in some of the villages. When you see the homes in disrepair, where sometimes you look at it and you say to yourself, well, nobody's living there. And then somebody else says, no, old man lives there. Or old lady lives there. You pass and see houses that are abandoned, or you see houses that are in deep need of repair, and the owner, the person who is in that home, does not have the means to be able to take care of that home, to do the necessary maintenance, and so they are stuck. And what that means, sir, is that it creates stress and underlying anxieties for people. There are other inconveniences that they experience because they're also challenged with their health. So now many people face old age fraught with inconveniences, with lots of pain and suffering. And so they spend, and living longer, they may spend 20 years living in a state of poverty. And what that means is that we have land assets across the country that are not performing as well as you would like in terms of being able to do the job that you would want it to do in order to meet the needs of citizens. In some cases, you have homes and properties that have been abandoned. Many people have situations, and all of us as MPs know it, where people haven't left a will. And nobody can find who the first owner was and who it's left to, and so there's a squabbling. And then there is the difficulty of resolving the legal issues, and so a property then becomes abandoned. So what this means, sir, is that while we compile and build up our physical development plan, and we put in place our economic and social plan, within that economic and social plan, we must prioritize having financial literacy education for all levels of the society, and especially for seniors in the management of their assets. What am I going to do with this home? How am I going to keep it in good shape while I'm living on a very limited income? And right now, I can't manage the house anymore. I can't get around upstairs anymore. What am I going to do? And so, with the Ministry of Energy and Business, we've just acquired a coordinator for our community effort, where we're going to be deploying facilitators across the country to be able to start putting on these sessions and classes in communities, to be able to work with people to look to see how can you use your land asset better? How can you use your resources better? What are the opportunities available to you? And this is going to be important. For me, I want to be able to see, sir, that we continue to work on trying to develop a viable reverse mortgage market. I think that this would be of tremendous help to our seniors to enable them to get cash from out of their asset that can help them with either the maintenance of the home or with the maintenance of themselves. Now, one of the things, sir, is what are some of the ways in which we can help that person transition? 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, or maybe even bigger. They're now living alone because maybe they were divorced, maybe one partner has died, the children have left, and that person is there in the home alone, unable to care for it. It means that we have to look, sir, at developing a program that can help that person to be able to find a way to live well in their senior years. One, I think that we have to look at what has been mentioned by our government as one of our plans, to be able to look at building villages, and I believe the Honourable Member for St. George South alluded to it. The seroptimist type villages now have to be built across the country, because with the best will in the world, a psychiatric hospital cannot hold everyone. But how are we going to afford to build the seroptimist type village? And then what do we do about the house that the person may have left behind? How can we use that to assist this person to live? I believe, sir, that this is where a joint approach could really work. Because if we could create a fund, or we could create a vehicle that allows the property that the senior person is living in, maybe it's in disrepair, but it still has some value, that if it is possible, sir, to be able to acquire funding to be able to repair that home and put it on the market where it could be rented or leased, and some of the money coming from the rent could go towards the person living within that seroptimist type village, where they're able now to be in a smaller, more manageable unit. They're able to be with people who are at their age level with maybe similar interests, that they can then have access to nearby services, medical services, pharmacy services, mini marts, what have you, and recreational services, all in a shared space and a safe space. I believe that this would help the senior to make good use of their existing home, using it to help invest in putting a seroptimist village program together with government and being able to use it to help them live and maintain their lives. And then as the person passes, the property is still within their, is still part of their estate. And therefore the property can pass then to their juniors and their children, who can now inherit that property and go from there. So I believe this is one of the ways that we can help people transition from these big homes they're not able to manage, that might not be in good repair, transition to a smaller unit and use the assets in the older property to help them finance being in that particular facility. One of the things that I would like to see for St. James South, we have, as I said, a large grouping of seniors, but we do not have spaces for them. And the National Cultural Foundation has been earmarked for transition down to the city. And that is a lovely complex there at NCF. I believe that what we need to do, because in that immediate vicinity, you have Wanstead, Paradise Heights, West Terrace, Oxnard's, Husbands, all aged societies, all aged communities. And we can create there at the NCF complex a daycare for seniors, a complex for entertainment and for people gathering. We should be able to put in the welfare and social services from the Ministry of People Empowerment so that they're easy and ready to hand. We should be able to put in the pharmacy and a small mini-mart so that everything is available around that community, that people can easily take a stroll or a walk and go up there and get what they need, or drive if they're still driving, or ask a neighbor to do it for them. I believe that this would be one of the best uses that we can use for the NCF complex, simply because in the building out of that area, no provision was made for community facilities. Absolutely none. And therefore, I think that we can take the opportunity of the transition of NCF to another place to make that available to seniors so that there's a place for them to go. If some of them are in difficulties, for example, they have Alzheimer's or dementia, that a special section or unit of it can care for them while their juniors are at work, etc. But there's also another group, sir, in my community in St. James South that has a problem. In the housing estates that government owns, we have a number of seniors who are challenged. Now, these units, as you know, sir, are small, they're multi-generational, they're upstairs and downstairs. And what happens as the senior person grows in age and is afflicted by NCDs, very often they may lose a foot or they may lose mobility for whatever reason. So what happens now, sir, is that that person can no longer manage going up and down the stairs. Now, those stairs are steep and sometimes they're slippery and the step is narrow. And if they're not able to maintain their balance and be able to walk down and get back up, it is an accident waiting to happen, and it has happened. So this has resulted in sometimes the senior having to stay upstairs, convert their room into not only the bedroom, it's now their sitting room, and even sometimes to have a microwave or something in the bedroom because they cannot move up and down the stairs at will because the younger people may not always be in the home when they need help. They're trapped on the upstairs of that unit. Some families decide that no, we can't leave them upstairs because they need to get to the bathroom when we're not here. So they then are forced to convert the living room space now, sir, into a bedroom. But that now deprives that family, maybe 6 or 7 people living in there, it now deprives that family of the social space that the living room provides. And so what this does, it adds pressure, tremendous pressure to families because we are in need of using a different approach to how we do housing for seniors. And sir, my recommendation is we have plans to build 10,000 units. One thing we know for sure, that everybody who gets that unit, if they live long enough to the average age of 80 for Barbadians, then they're going to get old. So therefore, I think that from early o'clock, we should build with that in mind. Whether we're talking about the door space, whether we're talking about the ramp, whether you're talking about if you're going to go upstairs, you might need to have an external balcony and a way to get downstairs by a series of ramp movements to allow people to be able to work with the space which we give to them, because we also have the other challenge, and I do believe the Honourable Member for St. Michael South Central mentioned it, that we now need to increase the density of our population when we're building, and that we need to start and do high rise. But how are we going to accommodate seniors within that particular space? So I would want to recommend that as we're looking at the new construction, that we start to look at that. How are we going to purpose build what we have to be able to suit the needs of our seniors so that they are able to live in comfort in the community where they've grown up, because this is very important to them. Have it looking attractive. We are struggling right now as a country to be able to manage that. I believe, sir, that what has to happen is that the community needs to cooperate and work alongside of government to be able to manage the environmental concerns that have occurred. Sir, with all the climate change, you're going to get flooding, you're going to get grass and bush growing at a rapid rate. How many people can government afford to employ to be able to keep that down? How many people would you need to make sure that each spot gets cleaned every 4 weeks? And during the rainy season, it is every 2 weeks. It is going to be impossible because the cost to the taxpayer is going to be great. So it means the taxes that we have to charge will increase if we are to do it the way it needs to be done. What this means is that in communities have to be willing to work together. Neighborhoods have to be willing to work together and put money together to help keep around them clean, to be able to take some of the community spaces and have them, the lawns cut, trees trimmed, and if they do it, if they don't wait until the grass is 10 feet tall and the place has run away and needs heavy equipment, if they keep at it regularly, I believe we'll be able to keep our spaces clean. And that is one of the things I think we need to do. Now, part of my planning as an MP for St. James South, as I said, the seniors are of special concern to me because there's so many of them. And one of the problems we have is that the roads that we have in St. James South and across Barbados, we don't have adequate sidewalks for people to exercise, that they can walk comfortably and safely. Sometimes you have to step down in the road. Sometimes the pavement is broken. And this presents a challenge, especially if you're older. It's very easy to hurt yourself when you are older, when you are walking on uneven pavement. It's easy to hurt your ankle, it's easy to fall. And therefore, what is needed is that we do a thorough refurbishment of our pavements or create alternative spaces where people can walk and exercise and therefore keep healthy. So at the Husbands Exercise Park, which is just there by Oxnard's in St. James South, we've attempted to put together a park to allow our seniors to have a space in which they can exercise. But what is really needed there, sir, is an exercise track that will allow them to walk safely, not have to look over their shoulder to see if a car or a motorcycle is passing at speed, so that they can safely exercise. Because if we can help them to exercise, they're going to remain healthier, and as a result, the cost to government of taking care of seniors will actively drop, and their quality of life will actually increase. I believe that we have a lot of work to do in relation to how we are going to help our seniors. I would love to see, sir, that we develop some retirement cooperatives where seniors can join the cooperative and start planning towards a joint approach to being able to manage their retirement years. Because I believe that they're going to have to work together, because the truth is our families are too small now to adequately take care of seniors. But a co-op where they could join together to help do bulk purchasing, or to provide housing, or to provide maintenance, or what have you, that there may be useful ways that a cooperative approach could actually help our seniors to live well and to live better. I just want to end, sir, by thanking again the team, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West, for bringing to this Honourable Chamber this wonderful document, Physical Development Plan, and I want to give it my heartiest support.
Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to give my brief comments in support of this resolution, Barbados Physical Development Plan as amended 2023. And sir, I wish to first of all start by recognizing the work done by, first of all, the Honourable Member for St. Michael South Central, who would have started this process at the time when she was Minister for Development, and also the Honourable Member and his team, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West and his team, for what I consider to be perhaps the best compendium of information that one can gather in a small island developing states with limited resources and indeed limited space and a small population. And sir, this by no means could have been easy to pull together when one considered that there are several challenges that would have to have been addressed in order to be able to arrive at such a document that seeks to address how we not only govern this country, but create the necessary space for human existence in a construct that can easily be derailed if the correct approach hadn't been taken. And whilst it is true, sir, that many of the speakers before me would have addressed various components of this resolution and indeed the impact on various sectors of this island, sir, I seek to perhaps minimize my presentation by looking at the set of integrated business options that may be available to people who are involved in agriculture. This, to me, sir, is the best polymorphism that you can pull together for a sector. And I said polymorphism simply because of the related and integrated aspects of agriculture that can come out of this resolution or this physical development plan without interfering with the core of our sector and without interfering with the options that are available to those who are involved in agriculture. And sir, I speak first of all to the introduction of large-scale renewable energy that allows for us to not only have scale in the provision of energy, transitioning from the use of fossil fuels, sticking to our target of 2030 reduction of the fossil fuel footprint to almost zero. But at the same time, recognizing the importance of such a transition and how it will impact agriculture, and taking the necessary decisions to make sure that arable lands are not reduced or indeed left out in order for renewable energy to take center stage. And sir, for me, that represents what you call full consultation across ministries, full consultation across stakeholders, full consultation across those who are involved in the physical development plan. But more importantly, sir, this is what true government looks like. Being able to use that integrated process to create other opportunities for a country where people can participate without at any time at all diminishing or reducing the economic capacity of the agricultural sector. And so I speak to the opportunity, which is twofold, in being able to introduce photovoltaics that will allow for us to be able to still continue to do livestock farming, where you twin photovoltaics with the rearing of black belly sheep. And Mr. Speaker, we all do know that the government has a very ambitious plan working between Barbados, Guyana, and still to be Suriname, to be able to produce 1 million heads of black belly sheep in order for us to be able to export Barbados black belly lamb in the near future. And the fact that we can twin livestock farming with the photovoltaics gives us a clear example of what I meant when I spoke to polymorphism. Mr. Speaker, this does not only end with livestock farming. And I would want to urge all involved to look also at the options for forage and also the options for water harvesting and the options available for growing vegetables and root crops. This, in order for it to be achieved, sir, would mean that we would have to revisit some of the projects that have been rolled out, and indeed future projects, to make sure that we establish a standard in terms of the height, because what I see is too near ground. And I don't think that as a Minister of Agriculture, we would have achieved our objectives with these panels so near ground. Certainly it does not allow comfort for black belly sheep to coexist, and it will not allow for the planting of vegetables or root crops in its present state without certain discomfort. And Mr. Speaker, I would wish for the future to reflect what I've seen in other places where these systems are set up above, I would say, up to as high as 6 feet. I know that we live in the tropics, and we annually are at risk of hurricanes and storms, and that may be a consideration, but I don't rule out, sir, having a standard set for the establishment of these systems, and clearly how the projects are rolled out. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to inform the House that such an option is available in wind turbine as well, and in the physical development plan, it has been properly captured, and that is why I'm so supportive of this document, because it has been properly captured how we can introduce renewable energy and at the same time allow for us to use our limited land space to use energy and continue with agriculture. Now, my position on this has been very clear. I think the senior minister responsible for development would also know that out of our discussions, I've made it abundantly clear that we must find the best solution in order for us not to disadvantage those involved in the sector, in the agriculture sector that is, but equally that we don't incur a hue and cry across Barbados, which for the most part, sir, oftentimes is misinformed, where people just speak to issues without first knowing the facts. or without even doing the research. And there is a conversation that takes place in Barbados, and to my mind, rightfully so as it relates to food security and nutritional security, but misplaced as it relates to the accusations that are made that arable land is being used up for all types of different things other than agriculture. And that is why I refer to this document as a compendium, because it was carefully compiled, making sure that all the information is a perfect match for what we want to achieve as a government, but equally what we have expressed in our manifesto to the people of Barbados. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, we all know that Barbados is a water-scarce country, and we understand the challenges that our farmers are facing as we go through the droughts during the summer period, and clearly what we went through last August through September, sir. If the indicators are correct, 2024 are projected to be worse. And we understand the heat that we went through during that period, where it didn't only impact on our poultry industry, but it certainly impacted on our root crops, and root crops are deep in the soil. So clearly, if the soils are going to be carrying excess heat, then you can understand that the yields will not be what they used to be. And in looking at the figures or the numbers that have been sent to me so far, I have to be honest in saying that our yields are down with regard to crops like sweet potato. And whilst they are up with cassava, we have to find a way to address what the heat is doing with the sweet potato. And sir, that is the reason why we are starting a project at the Home Agriculture Station to give us an opportunity in a state-of-the-art tissue culture lab that would allow for us to provide clean planting material, but equally to do enough testing to get us to be able to address what is required of us in an environment that is fluid, but at the same time one that we cannot easily predict what will happen. And sir, this means that our agri-food processing systems, in addition to being able to plant crops in open field agriculture, which is a practice in Barbados that people cling to, a practice that people who have been involved in traditional agriculture prefer to hold on to. And so there's space for that. And this physical development plan lends itself to us being able to continue to do that by making sure the space that is available isn't compromised. And that's why the integrated rural development projects have not been touched, in as much as there were discussions around how some of those areas could have been developed or subdivided. We at the ministry took a position that you can't do that, simply because these are areas that had water, but equally we want to make sure you can do open field agriculture. And sir, I am happy to note, because I speak only because I know the views of the people who are involved in agriculture, and when I speak to what they tell me, it is left up to them to determine whether or not I have taken it in the right direction. And sir, many farmers have said to me that they would like to do some kind of subdivision on large tracts of land, 4 acres and above, up to 10 acres. And we were restricted under the previous development plan, but this plan now lends itself to allow for that to take place in an acreage allotment that would allow for our farmers to be able to do agriculture on their land whilst living there. And sir, that, to my mind, represents true change, because Many farmers have been hit by predial larceny, and many times it takes place because they are not on the scene. So you will find that when they have left the farm to go home, that is when predial larceny can take place, sir. So that if you now have reached the point where you allow for subdivision, where that farmer can actually live on his farm, we have addressed the issues where once upon a time, only those on large plantations can live on the plantation, sir. And that, to me, is a tremendous achievement in a small island developing state, that where we are prepared to step outside the box to create opportunities for people who have said to you, this is what we need to address the problem, and we have responded, sir. And Mr. Speaker, those farmers who are also on small tracts of land, many of them are on 1 acre lots, can also have that option as well, sir. So this physical development plan, to my mind, did more for agriculture than what critics may seem to want to portray or project. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm keen on hearing what the opposition or the supposed to be voices against this government will have to say about such a decision, and certainly such a development in Barbados, where people were told point blank, no, you got a farm, but you can't put nothing there except to plant crops and then get someone come and harvest those crops for you when you're not there. So in addition to passing legislation, and if you see how the decisions of this government are all interrelated to come up with a single circle that gives us a circular economy that addresses and takes care of all the needs of the people who have said, we are confident you can run this country, so not once but twice, we are giving you the mandate to do that which is right for us. And Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to be in a position to also inform this House and this country that as we move along, knowing that agriculture cannot continue just in open field, that we are now going to be going to the common estimates for the new financial year with plans to see how we can roll out at various points across Barbados opportunities for people to function in co-ops. And I, sir, do recall when I presented to Cabinet the document for the feed program, I spoke about people working in clusters, because I felt then, and I still do, that if you take somebody who doesn't know about agriculture, but that the thrust of your program was to train people to get more people in agriculture, you then take that single person and put he or she on an acre of land, it still needs a hand-holding exercise and guidance. But if you put them in clusters, sir, they can help bring along each other. And the extension officer then has an opportunity to work with more people, thus not being overstretched. And then you can graduate them by giving more land as they progress. Sir, I am past that now. And what I'm into now, sir, is being able to get people to work in cooperatives, in addition to using the cluster system on open field agriculture, to allow for people to own hydroponic systems in Barbados. And those hydroponic systems, sir, we may have to look at how they're going to be financed. The Agriculture Development Fund is a perfect place for us to do the financing. And I strongly believe that such systems then would allow for us to reduce the scarcity of crops that are impacted by heat or by climate. And the climate crisis is real, sir, and there's no point we continue to fool ourselves. Certainly, the amount of calls that I get or WhatsApp messages where people either tell me that they're not getting water or the entire place is flooded out and they're losing crops, I am absolutely sure in my mind where this sector needs to go. And even though we have not been able to move at pace, sir, to introduce these systems as I personally would have liked, I do not think that we are too late because, as I've said before, globally, many countries are still playing catch up. And globally, the entire globe is facing the same climate crisis, and scarcity of water is at the core. Mr. Speaker, if we can ramp up these systems by first starting about 3 or 4 areas, getting Barbadians accustomed to them, providing the training, sir, and then spread out and providing the opportunity for financing, because you can't ask people to transition from one level of agriculture to another and they don't have the financial wherewithal. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, that would give us an opportunity for people to produce more with faster harvesting times and higher yields, sir. But equally, Mr. Speaker, I did an address to the Barbados Professional Engineers, or Barbados Professional Association of Engineers, I think it is. And I challenged the engineers of Barbados to help us address the challenges we face with the costs of freight farms. A freight farm which is doing the same type of hydroponic system, but allows for you to use technology, your mobile phone, your iPad, your laptop, desktop, whatever you choose, sir, to be able to control a farm, the temperature, the lighting, applying fertilizer, all those things that you can do from in your motor car, in the traffic, from in your bedroom, in your office, sir. That kind of system we need as well. But if we are going to address agriculture in a holistic way and look at empowerment and enfranchisement, it cannot only be a rural concept, sir. It has to also look at how we can include urban Barbados. And Mr. Speaker, freight farms, if I can get our engineers to look at what is being manufactured in the US, for example, and to be able to you don't have to go with a 20-foot container, sir. You can reduce the size, so one 20-foot can perhaps give you 2, but however they choose to do it, sir. I know that we have the skills and the ability in this country for us to start designing and making those here ourselves. Because I've seen that we were able to manufacture the minibus. And I've seen that we've been able to manufacture the bathroom facilities that we are now using on BAMC farms. Sir, I believe we can do this. And my challenge to them is not to let next year pass without them demonstrating to this country that they have found a new way of business by helping us to get some of those systems locally manufactured, sir. And if we were to do that, all of a sudden we have a new conversation for the member for the city who is charged with his responsibility of making sure that the youth of Barbados are taken care of, and that we can create programs to be able to help them to focus on productive activity and reduce the level of crime. And Mr. Speaker, we've also find that in this physical development plan, we are able to integrate agriculture and urban existence, sir. And that, for me, is an absolute gain when we were discussing how we can go about this plan. So our other options will be to use what was designed as a green machine, sir, and I'm sure you would allow me to call the name of Senator Dr. Charleston Bradford, who has designed the green machine for us. An excellent Barbadian, actually, the only Director General who has ever served ECA, and the only one from, certainly, within CARICOM that has served ECA as Director General. And Mr. Speaker, that project we need to push because it allows then for young people and also right across Barbados, not just urban Barbados, an opportunity now for people to do aquaponics, growing vegetables and fish for their own consumption, or to see how they can commercialize it from a small system at home. And Mr. Speaker, this physical development plan allows for us to be able to continue to do all of these things without interference or compromise, sir. But what this speaks to is the genius involved in carving out a plan, sir, where people were forced to go outside of their comfort zone, because we could have been having, sir, a debate in this country about agricultural land, and we only got 28,000 acres, and how you're going to do this physical development plan where you want to allow for further subdivision and for more commercial projects, etc. And that would have been taking the conversation, sir, in a wild and wrong direction. But when you are forced to keep up with where the world is at, sir, but equally what the climate crisis is asking you to do, then you come with the solutions that are suitable fit, or what most people refer to as fit for purpose, in being able to build out a small island developing state with limited resources, small population, and limited space into being something that is totally efficient and allows for the empowerment and the enfranchisement of all Barbadians, sir. And that, to my mind, is also a win in this physical development plan. Now, Mr. Speaker, the plan also speaks to the Scotland District, and it speaks to how we function and be able to build out this Scotland District given the challenges with slippage, etc. And Mr. Speaker, I still personally believe in the late member for St. Peter, the right Honourable Professor Owen Arthur, did make it abundantly clear that the Scotland District should be treated as the breadbasket for Barbados to provide our food because of the large mass of land. And I don't see the Scotland District as just East Coast or St. Andrews, sir. I see the Scotland District for what it really is, stretching all the way up to St. John and some parts of St. Philip, and St. Peter and St. Lucy and St. James, sir. And, well, Mr. Speaker, I know that we have looked at how we are going to build out the Scotland District. Well, we've started a program with agroforestry where the feed program had allowed for the agroforestry project to kick off, where people were actually working in the Scotland District, planting fruit trees and root crops and beans and nuts, etc., to be able to empower themselves whilst being able to use the land without too much interference or challenging or moving the integrity of the field structures, sir. And that, sir, when I said St. James, I meant by way of constituency and not parish, because St. James North will perhaps run contiguous with St. Peter, am I correct? So that is what I'm referring to. Mr. Speaker, it therefore means that the opportunity now for us to utilize agroforestry more was stop for us being complaining, or stop people from complaining, I should say rather, about not having enough land to do these things. Because agroforestry allows for you to keep your forests, but you at the same time can plant things like legumes and nuts and those kind of things in between. As a matter of fact, my grandmother had cane fields when I was growing up. And in between those cane fields, we used to plant yam, sweet potato, and some beans as well, sir. So agroforestry, sir, or intercropping is something that can be considered as well. Now, Mr. Speaker, not only did we start fruit trees in the Scotland district, sir, we also gave graduates of the feed program boxes to do apiculture, so that we have an opportunity to expand beekeeping and allow for people to be able to see apiculture as a business option. And there are young men and women currently involved in beekeeping in Barbados, sir. Now, Mr. Speaker, our country basically is set up in such a way where we have terraces and we have heights and we have tenantries and we have villages, all types of constructs, sir. But at the end of the day, we have one Barbados. And for us to be able to benefit from what we have, sir, we have to make sure that we utilize the opportunities that are available in allotment gardens, and the Honourable Member for St. James South obviously would be happy to join me in supporting this, because she has started a project in her constituency. And allotment gardens, or community gardens, as some people refer to them, must be a future project where we expand this in Barbados so that people can plant their own food. And you either can do it by way of these allotment gardens, and I'm happy to announce, sir, that ICA launched Wednesday, I think it is, a Master Gardeners training that allows for Barbadians to be able to train the trainer in utilizing allotment gardens and being able to utilize community gardens for people to be trained and to continue building out these projects, sir. And of course, backyard gardens as well. Backyard garden doesn't mean that you have to fork up your land. And if I need to clarify this, let me do so. It basically means in your yard, you can have drums, you can have various types of containers, you can put up a vertical system, and you can plant different types of crops, sir, or fruits, strawberries being one. And if Barbadians were to take advantage of the opportunity that is available to them to just be a little more creative, just like how we were in developing this physical development plan, then you can see how people can reduce their food bill in the supermarket by planting some of the food that they consume, but equally getting the opportunity to get involved in something other than socializing over a drink or just sitting doing nothing. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that this is something that we have to give momentum to so that communities across Barbados can get involved in this process. And Mr. Speaker, I've already spoken to the United Nations Development Program Coordinator in Barbados, as well as the officer that is in charge of the grants program for these types of projects, for us to be able to roll out projects in communities with groups or cooperatives with a common interest. It's not going to be done on an individual basis, but certainly with groups. And if all these things, when combined, sir, can actually function as they ought to, then you see clearly what a food security and nutritional security plan will look like in this country, and how we can reduce the food import bill that was mentioned today, and equally reduce the supermarket bill. And so, Mr. Speaker, what has forced us into all of this is simply this physical development plan, sir. And therefore, I wish to give my full support to this plan. And, Mr. Speaker, I want all Barbadians to get on board and support this resolution, because this is what Barbados needs at this time. I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Christchurch, Essential.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am glad for the opportunity to support this resolution, but also just share a few perspectives, sir, with respect to where Barbados is today, reflecting on where we've come from, and hopefully, sir, to bring a little more color, if you like, in relation to how our constituents, sir, should see this document not just as something that we are debating in Parliament, sir, but effectively bring to life the impact that it will have on them, not just today, sir, but tomorrow, and I dare say, sir, over the next few generations. Because whilst we come here every 10 years, sir, to give a perspective in terms of how we see the physical development of Barbados, it is instructive and important to appreciate that, as you know, sir, in economics, they say the long run, sir, is a series of short runs. And what we do in each short run, sir, absolutely matters, because it's all connected. And therefore, we cannot, sir, divorce the document from the decisions that we take in our lives, sir, every day. And I preface my comments, sir, in that perspective, because whilst I was in Kingston, sir, a few weeks ago, and having a chat with some folks, and during the course of the conversation, sir, as you know, when you try to get in Kingston after a certain time, sir, given all the development in the surrounding area, on the evenings especially, sir, you take a good while, sir, to get in after you pass by the roundabout, sir, with the bottleneck that's there, sir, in relation to accessing the area. People complain they can't get out when the morning comes, sir, because of the traffic coming down from the airport, sir. And if you go across the country, sir, you will hear reflections and perspectives of this type. So inevitably, sir, the question was asked, what the government going to do about this traffic, sir? That's the question to me, the MP. And I then said, well, you know, this is not just an answer for what we could possibly do today, but as a reflection, sir, as I mentioned, of those series of short runs, decisions that we have made that would have led, sir, or that has led to the current situation. So when I said, look, we have to make a decision about what Barbados is going to do to transform this country, and remain committed, sir, to those decisions. So I reflect on the fact, sir, that when the highway was first to be built, sir, and you would remember this, sir, the highway was supposed to be 4 lanes. At the time, in the 80s, sir, the highway was supposed to be 4 lanes. Now, I'm speaking specifically to that section there between where Coleman is and where Gildan is, are those 2 roundabouts. The highway is effectively 2 lanes in that specific section. And had we, sir, had we made the investment in the 80s to construct the highway as was conceived back then, sir, it would not only, sir, have costed less in the first instance to do, but it would have provided, sir, the platform for the visioning and the growth with respect to the ownership of cars, sir, transportation in the country, sir, as part of the physical development. Because as Kingston was building out at that time, sir, in the very early 80s, around the same time that the highway was going in, sir, if you had a car back in the days, it would have been sweet because there ain't much traffic on the road, you're driving in, sir, and therefore you're good to go. Most people would have been catching the bus, therefore traffic would not have been an issue. But as in good Barbados Labour Party fashion, sir, we think forward. We think forward. And in thinking forward, sir, as part of the development plan, we must think about what the country is going to look like in 40 years, sir, 50 years, in order to ensure that those short-run decisions that we make, sir, matches with what we are projecting on the 40 to 50-year horizon. So, suffice it to say, sir, the highway was not built with 4 lanes all the way through. That's one short-run decision, sir, impacting the situation today. Then not so long ago, sir, 15 years ago or so, the Barbados Labour Party again, sir, looking forward and knowing the policies that we had put in place in relation to traffic, sir, we said, you know what, in order for us to be able to address this issue, sir, frontally, we're going to have to look at what not just that Kingston in that instance, sir, have grown, but the development that we had seen, sir, in and around Christchurch was such now that the traffic situation in Christchurch and the rest of Barbados, sir, was such that the Barbados Labour Party government contemplated that we should have, sir, flyovers in order to address what we saw, not just what happened today, but again, sir, you're thinking for 30, 40, 50 years in relation to how do you solve these issues given the challenges that the country is facing, but also the opportunities, sir, that this type of infrastructure will put in place in order to have people not just get to work faster, get to where they're going, to spend money faster, sir, to be able to do the things and have an ease with which we traverse the country. That was the vision, sir, part of the vision of the Barbados Labour Party. And therefore, upon taking office in 2008, sir, the last administration determined that, well, there would be no flyovers. Some people say it was a decision of a gorilla elephant. But the reality is, sir, that that decision today, oh, sorry, not today, 15 years ago, now led to a situation where almost every morning, sir, every evening, in every part of this country, sir, along the highway, you got gridlock. You got gridlock. So I try to explain that any decision that we take today as a country, sir, in relation to how we are going to address traffic, or any big decision, sir, that we must be committed, sir, to seeing it through. Because it's not just that the Barbados Labour Party lost the election in 2008, so therefore you reverse the decision because you're a gorilla elephant, sir. You are impacting, sir, down the road, how people can get work. And if you keep getting work late, sir, your boss can tell you, well, skipper, you're getting work late. And therefore, you got every right, sir, to discipline you for getting work late. But ain't your fault that a political party, sir, made a decision that was injurious to you without understanding the impact it was going to have, sir, on the people down the road. And therefore, sir, I preface these remarks as I start my contribution, because we must understand, sir, that if you make a decision and you don't put an alternative in place, sir, because nobody's questioning your right to make a decision, but you got to have an alternative in place that's going to help solve the problem, because the problem is still there when you cancel the contract, sir. The problem is still there. And 15 years on, sir, 15 years on, the people in Kingston and Washington, sir, and the surrounding areas, everybody that has to traverse the highway on a morning now, sir, stick up. Children get in school late, sir. And if children get in school late, sir, it means that they have the first period, sir, Cumulatively, if every day, sir, the children get in school late, it means they're missing the first period. And you miss the first period every day, sir, what does that mean? It means that your education, sir, is being impacted by the fact that you can't get school early, sir. So what do people got to do? People got left home at 6 o'clock now, sir, 5:30. Now that is not reasonable, sir, by any stretch of imagination, because that affects your sleep pattern, sir, your health in the long term, and therefore it's something that we must take very seriously in relation to the physical development plan and the decisions that we take, sir, in order to allow this country to continue on a very strong development path. So the reality is, sir, is that this conversation about traffic now, in the context of how we're going to transform Barbados, sir, in relation to what we're going to have to do with this physical development plan, then people must understand, sir, that one, it is going to cost a whole lot more, sir, a whole lot more, to do any flyovers today than it did 15 years ago when the project was in train, sir. It's going to cost a lot more. So you're either going to come to a realization, sir, that it has to be done and that we are going to do it and that it's going to cost X, and therefore all of us as a consequence of that irrelevant decision, sir, now will have to pay more. Or, sir, we're going to gotta suck it up and get stuck in the traffic when the morning comes, sir. Or leave home at 5:30 for the morning, sir, in order to get where you're going on time, sir. Which none of us want to do. But some decision, sir, has to be made in relation to how we are going to deal with this traffic situation. And it is not for me, sir, I'm not a traffic engineer, to say that you need 10 flyovers, 5 flyovers, or whatever it is, sir. But we have to come to a decision about it, how we're going to finance it, what it's going to do, and therefore execute it with the clear understanding, sir, with the clear understanding that this is what is critical, sir, to helping Barbados move forward. Now, the way that we as people now either choose to either own vehicles, sir, because we can see the advent potentially, sir, of self-driving cars. People are purchasing cars which are networked, sir. There are mobility policies in place in relation to persons being able to utilize platforms like Uber and that type of thing, sir. That is part of how perhaps we could deal with this traffic issue. By the end of the day, sir, it still requires units on the road. The improvement in public transportation, sir, I know the Mass Transit Authority is well advanced with respect to being able to satisfy that issue, but that still means, sir, units on the road. And therefore, to the extent that that poses a challenge, sir, I really look forward to having a robust conversation in this area, because I'm saying to Barbadians, sir, had we made these decisions as we anticipated it should have been made, it would have been timely, it would have costed less, sir, and therefore the traffic situation that we are seeing on the roads today would not have been the same type of challenge, and therefore we would have been facing different issues. But every time, sir, we kick a decision down the road and leave it for somebody else, sir, it becomes more expensive. It becomes less productive. And therefore, part of this physical development plan, sir, I want Barbadians to understand that this thing actually means something to them in every aspect of their life, sir. And therefore, whether it's agriculture, transportation, sir, community living, you name it, sir, there's something in this document that's going to touch everybody's life, in this country. Now, sir, I'm going to share a few thoughts here because I know that we want to get as much investment in Barbados as possible. And when I reflect, sir, in terms of issues related to, and the Honourable Member for St. James South made reference to estate planning. So issues related to estate planning, asset management, sir, these are at the core, sir, as to what we do as part of our development in this country. And the reality is, sir, I know that whilst the ministry has done quite a lot of work already in launching the Financial Literacy Bureau, sir, we now have to think about how do we genuinely get to people when they have to make these decisions so that they make the best possible decisions, sir, for their families. And not to see estate planning as something that your mother or father solely has the responsibility for, But as a family unit, as a community unit now, how do we get people to recognize that estate planning, asset management know that these are the things that would allow us to be able to extract wealth, sir, from the very assets that our parents, grandparents, everybody worked so hard for in order to move forward. But I want to make a simple point, sir. In the past, we've all been tempted, I say we, sir, not me, but we have all been tempted by people coming along and saying, you know, I can offer you $1 million for that property there. And sir, no, ain't very often that people can get $1 million offer and it's very difficult for people to think hard and say no. It's very difficult. Because in all of our lifetime, sir, having access to $1 million cash, as we would say, sir, cash, is difficult to turn down. Because as you know, sir, cash is king. And we promote this idea that cash is king, sir, as if it is the gospel. No, don't get me wrong, sir. Cash is important. Cash is absolutely important. But it is not the gospel, sir. But we get these offers, sir, which for most people, very lucrative. The scene wants life-changing money as people will be tempted to be convinced that it is. However, sir, I believe that as part of this physical development plan and what we as a government would want persons to be appreciative of, to be mindful of, is that people across the world, sir, see real estate as a means through which, sir, they can generate wealth. And therefore, anybody in this country with any property, sir, anybody, I would urge them, sir, to think twice, 3 times, 4 times, sir, before they dispose of their assets. Because the very thing, sir, that somebody may be able to offer you and say, okay, I'm going to give you $1 million, sir, for this half acre or whatever it is, sir, equivalent amount, means that they see something in there, sir, that you clearly don't see, sir, that you clearly don't see. And therefore, the attitude for Barbadians has to be more than just about whether cash is king, sir, but now being able to get some equity in whatever it is that you're planning to do with this property. So it makes more sense, sir, for you to say, well, I will take 30% in, or let's say a third in cash, and it can convert, sir, the 2/3 as an equity stake in whatever it is that you're planning to do. Because then are you going to get multiple times, sir, the $1 million that you're offering me, sir, based on that investment alone, sir, in order to help Barbadians not to become tenants in their own land, sir. And therefore, the attitude with respect to how Barbadians value, sir, this little rock. I know everybody wants a piece of the rock, sir, and getting the piece of the rock is important. But what you do with the piece, sir, is even more important than getting the piece. And the reality is, we seem more comfortable, sir, disposing of the piece of the rock to people from the outside, foreign investment, sir, and not appreciating, sir, that you take a little piece up front, invest the remainder, sir, and that estate planning, that asset management, sir, in the lives of ordinary Barbadians then helps to generate income. So when I heard the honourable member for St. James South refer to the fact that, yes, there are persons who have traditionally worked, they were the early middle class, if you like, sir, of the country, and the reality is now that the activities that they were involved in, not just the fact that the children moved out and the like, sir, the reality is that the assets are no longer generating the income that allows you then, when you get mature, to be able to maintain the property at the level that you would like, maintain yourself at the level that you would like, sir. And this physical development plan, sir, whilst I know it doesn't go into that particular space, it is important that Barbadians look at the document and see the opportunities that arise therein, within the document, and then work, sir, with whoever you need to work with to be able to bring expression to the opportunities that are there. And therefore, by the same way, sir, that people were prepared to give a whole set of money to Blessing Circle, sir, which have no basis in reality, sir, no basis in fact or anything at all. I want Barbadians to take up this document, sir, and just take a little time to read it. And speak to your friends and your family in your community, sir. And say, how can we, as the Honourable Member for St. Philip South indicated, how can we as a cluster, sir, take advantage of the fact, sir, that there's an opportunity. You see all this development going on here, so you see with the monument. I didn't get a chance to go and see the monument yet, sir, but from where I studied it's a beautiful, I wasn't here, sorry, I wasn't here. Beautiful, I looked out, but I got to go and see it. You got Golden Square across the way, sir. Development coming in town. And as I spoke last week in relation to the Kensington Oval resolution, remember I said, sir, the urban regeneration that is being contemplated from Westbury Road coming up, sir, all the way up through the Earlings, all the way up to the Bayland here, sir, as part of the urban regeneration exercise. But the reality is, sir, that we want to be able to see within that type of policy execution, sir, that the same way that we're talking about improving and upgrading housing opportunities, sir, we must start to think very carefully about how do we, and I like the idea of the mixed-use facilities, because the reality is, sir, is that if we're able to build 3, 4, 5-story housing across the landscape in Barbados, sir, so that it ain't only along the commercial interest, sir, but that the people themselves in the residential areas can own those assets in the same way that you recall, remember back in the day, sir, timeshare was the biggest thing ever. Barbados now got to see that they can get a piece of that action too, sir. And not only just see it as part of something that tourists do or resorts do, sir, and that as communities you can come together and do that type of condominium type ownership and structure, but by the same token, creating spaces within the same building, sir, to do indoor agriculture, because at the end of the day, sir, within the urban space, and certainly to address the issues that the member for St. Philip South raised in relation to predial larceny. If you're growing your food, sir, within the confines of buildings right strategically across the country, sir, it means that you solve that, at least for the most part, you solve that problem, because, you know, sir, wherever they got people, some type of malfeasance has the potential to occur. But the reality is that you can solve some of these issues, sir, with food security, especially in some of the urban corridors, sir, by people being able to utilize these spaces in order to ensure that we can do the indoor agriculture, the agriculture, and all of these things, sir, in controlled environment, sir, such that you don't have the issues with the pests, the yields, and all those things, sir, can be enhanced, but it has to be decisive, sir, deliberate, in order for us to be able to get this done. And I see this, sir, as part of how potentially, sir, we can buy back Barbados, so to speak. And I say so from the perspective not to scare anybody in relation to investment, sir, but for Barbadians to understand and appreciate that this document here, sir, affords us the opportunity, sir, to truly participate, but we got to find a way, sir, to get past the thing that, you know, the trust issues, sir. The trust issues. And that, I believe, sir, is critically important for us to be able to drive, sir, this physical development plan to the next level. And the reality is, sir, is that, as you know, last year we did the debt swap, where we came here and we spoke about the marine spatial planning and the work that's being done offshore, sir. Wonderful set of opportunities there as well within the context of the physical development and how we manage our resources. And therefore, at a community level, sir, I believe that this document, sir, with the appropriate expression within communities across Barbados. So if you look at our housing estates, for example, sir, I think there's a real opportunity, sir, for us to get our citizens within those housing estates, but I think right across Barbados, from estate planning, asset management, sir, to start to see themselves now as investors, sir, in this country. Because these are the same people, sir, that got money in the credit union. These are the same people, sir, that consuming in this country, sir. These are the same people, sir, with the skills that are delivering, sir, world-class products that people come here every day, every year to consume repeatedly. And I know the Honourable Member for St. Peter can attest to that, sir. And therefore, there is nothing that is beyond us, sir, in saying to Barbadians that this physical development plan, 2023, whilst it only speaks to the 10-year horizon that they want to remind the country through you, sir, the long run is a series of short runs, and this is just one iteration of where we need to go, but we must see the opportunity of generating wealth, sir, for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And therefore, we must take a long view, sir, in relation to how we make decisions today. In the same way, sir, that you want the government to take a long view with respect to development of the country and being able to provide goods and services, it has to be at a long view. Individually, sir, we must now look and see and ask our citizens what it is that they can do to contribute, sir, to creating that long view and that long vision, sir, with respect to ensuring that their children, their children's children, and those in the community around them, sir, will not feel as if they are not a part of the investor class in this country. Because I can tell you, sir, and I say to all Barbadians, this document has been published. People are going to be looking in this document, and they're going to be saying, well, I can see all these things happening here, and therefore they're going to come, and they're going to make representation to Ministry X, Ministry Y, all over the place, sir, in order to get that done. So Barbadians, sir, should not excuse themselves from that process too. And therefore, it is not a matter of whether you know the MP, or you know the minister, or you know this body, or the next secretary. The document is here, sir. The document is here. And therefore, we have the collective skill. We have the monies in the credit union, sir. We are the very consumers, sir, of the goods and services in the country. And therefore, Barbadians must now see themselves, sir, as being capable of leading and executing this vision, sir, with respect to how can we make this physical development plan real in the lives of their families, their communities, sir. But you can only do that, sir, if you do it together. Because none of us, sir, can be saved alone. None of us. And therefore, to the extent that the building of resilience in our communities, within our families, sir, across the country, means that we now must sit down as big men and women, sir, as we would say, and be open and honest about our faults, sir, our weaknesses, and what you can contribute to a particular process. And you find the right people, sir, to deliver the mission, because there's a difference, sir, between owning something and managing something, sir. And therefore, so long as we are able to be absolutely clear in our minds as to what the mission will be in relation to any element with respect to this physical development plan, then I'm confident, sir, that we'll be able to get this done. But it means, sir, we cannot put off things. We cannot put off things. You know, sir, I was reflecting on something the other day. I was in the supermarket, and the cashier, sir, asked me if I wanted to buy a plastic bag. And I reflected on that, sir. And I said, imagine the cashier is asking me, sir, if I want to buy a plastic bag. And the truth is, sir, you know, 5 years ago, the idea of buying a plastic bag you would get cursed, sir. It would be, it was a foreign idea. But today, sir, you go to a supermarket, or any place for that matter, and they will ask you, you want to purchase a bag? And then you will say, you know, I left my bag home, so I'll go and get one. I'm making the simple point, sir, that had we not taken the decision in relation to the ban on single-use plastic, sir, that would not even be a contemplation for any supermarket, anybody, any consumer, sir. But no, we accept it, sir. We accept it. We accept it. And therefore, I'm saying to the country, we must make decisions, sir. Because people can call for murder, and then you get used to the change, but the reality is, sir, you see the benefit of the change. Because most of us, sir, people don't carry the bags when they leave home, you know, because normally I got a few bags, the recyclable bags in my car, but I take them out, sir, and I didn't have them, so I had to buy a plastic bag. But normally, I would have got them in the back of the car, I never take them up. But the reality is, it hurt me. But the
You
reality,
had to buy the bag.
I had to buy the bag, sir.
Spend the money.
I had to spend the money. So that was not me, sir. That's not me. But the point is, sir, what we don't realize is that these small things make a significant difference, sir. A significant difference to how we operate, and ultimately, sir, how the country is able to manage its resources. So, you know, sir, I put the bags in the back of my car, because when I went home now, the bags that I took out, they're there. So I don't make the sport, but I'm saying it has to spur, sir. I mean, it may happen from time to time, but it has to spur, sir, a change in your behavior in order for us to be able to see that the policies that the government is putting in place is really for our benefit as individuals. And therefore, the debate here in relation to the physical development plan, sir, I think is absolutely important. I'm going to share aspects of because I mean, this is as comprehensive a document as one could possibly get. And the reality is, persons will hire people to go through the document, sir, and identify opportunities for investment in Barbados. I'm going to take the time, sir, to communicate with my constituents, share with members as well, the opportunities, so that Barbadians, whether you live in a contiguous setting or across communities across Barbados, that you must find a way, sir, must find a way to be able to leverage, sir, the strong savings that we have in our credit union movement, which really, sir, is our money. We all get up every day, sir, and we go to work and we deliver skills for people, sir, that some have a long association with Barbados, some don't. But the reality is, sir, that we are leveraging our skill for the benefit of somebody else without getting the necessary share of that upside, which means then, sir, that when we come to issues in relation to cost of living, that if costs increase sharply, sir, within a short space of time, then it becomes harder to cope, simply because we don't have the resources to be able to cover those increased costs. And so I see this Barbados Physical Development Plan, sir, as a wonderful opportunity for furthering the enfranchisement, sir, of Barbadians. But Barbadians cannot, sir, excuse themselves from the process because the document too big, or they say it on Instagram or social media, or TikTok, or whatever it is, because, sir, we find the time, sir, to consume all types of things. But the things that really matter, sir, we are not going to take it up and share it with all our friends, sir. We can share things that's salacious, we can share things that bringing down somebody or cursing somebody, sir, but we ain't going to take it up and say, listen, they got opportunity down the corner there, so let us see how we can work together to be a part of this. And if we can do these things, sir, these things, and we remain focused, then the physical development plan will not just be a physical development plan of nice buildings and open spaces and that type of thing. It will actually, sir, redound to the benefit of the ordinary citizen, because we would have taken the time, sir, the time, the same way that we used to have the meat intern, sir, as a genuine savings and investment opportunity for those in the community, sir. That type of approach, sir, would allow us now to be able to leverage, to scale up, to utilize all of the resources that we have within the credit union space, the monies that people got home lock up at them, sir, because they got a lot of people, sir, that they still don't trust financial institutions, got all the money locked up home at them. It ain't earning anything, sir, and therefore all we are saying is that this physical development plan provides an opportunity, sir, for investment in this country, for building Barbados and to move forward. And I believe, sir, in my heart of hearts, that we need to take decisions. We need to take them early. We don't need to kick the can down the road, sir, because I believe that if we do not take these decisions today, sir, then in 30, 40 years' time, the country will be worse off, I don't want to be in a position where people will say to me, or people can be said of me, that I did not take the opportunity when I had the chance, sir, to be able to put these things in place. And so I say to the citizens, there are things that will be decisions that will be made today. It ain't for the next 2 years, it ain't for the next 5 years either, sir. It can't be for the next election cycle. It has to be about how do you reposition Barbados down the road. And let me say this, sir, because it's something that we all must appreciate fully. The demographics of Barbados, sir, have changed significantly. By 2050, it is projected, sir, that half the population will be over the age of 65. Now, sir, if you think of that just as a statistic, it sounds mind-boggling. But right now, we no longer really have a pyramid. We don't have a population pyramid. We have a population rectangle. And therefore, that being the case, not just the physical development plan, but all the other pending policies in relation to government which we're integrating, sir, must go hand in hand. And therefore, investment at the community level, I'm not talking about investment by government, at the community level, I'm saying investment at the community level. I would love to be able to see, sir, the fish markets and those types of things, sir, being taken over by the very people, sir, who use them, who can then use their skill to be able to drive and do more within those spaces, because by the same token, sir, they can respond faster to be able to get things done than government could possibly do. But we must see ourselves, sir, as investors, sir, in this project called Barbados. And therefore, you cannot expect the government, sir, you really cannot expect the government to upgrade the facilities and we don't have any skin in the game. Because at the end of the day, sir, we have to make strategic decisions about the resources that we do have. And therefore, it means extracting as much value, sir, out of every dollar that we as citizens invest, how we utilize our resources. And I'm not saying to people, sir, not to have fun, that it has to be all serious all the time, sir. But the reality is that if we do not deploy our hard-earned monies efficiently, within the context, sir, of taking a long view in relation to the physical development of the country, in terms of what the types of investment that we are seeing, and coming and saying, I want a piece of that action, sir, then I fear that we will not be able to deliver, sir, for our citizens in the way that they should. But the government is certainly going to create the environment to deliver that investment. And I say to citizens, let us meet the challenge where we need to meet it, and allow us then to be able, sir, to ensure that this physical development plan is not seen as something for foreigners, but this is something, sir, that will redound to the benefit of all Barbadians. And with those few words, sir, I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Member for St. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to add my voice to this debate on the Barbados Physical Development Plan, which sets the framework for the development of this island, Mr. Speaker. But I want to focus my brief presentation on Belle Plaine and St. Andrew as a whole. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I sat and I listened with amazement as the member for St. Joseph lamented about some of the challenges that he faced as an MP in a rural constituency that's situated in the Scotland district. He spoke of challenges as it relates to the exodus of persons from within St. Joseph, moving into the urban spaces, moving into St. James and St. Thomas and other places, and the impact that has had on communities in his constituency. And I can also speak to a similar exodus of persons moving from parts of St. Andrew into St. James and St. Thomas, and in some cases moving as far as St. Michael as well. Also, some would have moved even into very St. Joseph. And even though we've had that, we've had the added problem over the years of some of our institutions also moving away from St. Andrew Police Station. At some point, there was no outpatient clinic, the post office. A number of these government facilities and other amenities like this sports community center, we have also seen the exodus of these things from the Belle Plaine area. But I'm thankful today to report that we are now seeing the return of a number of facilities, government facilities. 2 years ago, we would have reopened the St. Andrew Outpatient Clinic. And just this year, we've seen the reopening of the St. Andrew or Belle Plaine's post office. So we're seeing the return of certain facilities, certain amenities coming back into St. Andrew. Because just like St. Joseph, and I'm sure the same is true for St. Thomas and other parts of rural Barbados, it is very difficult. It's perhaps one of the hardest choices a person will make, a person living in St. Andrew, St. James, St. Thomas, St. Joseph, St. John, I believe as well, St. George. The hardest decision that person could make is moving out from that rural community that they grew up in all their lives. I've seen people live in places where you know for sure that within a few years the land will slip away. In fact, you can see evidence of the land slipping even as we speak. And those persons are adamant that they can find a way to preserve and conserve that area, that they're willing to stay there to the very, very end. And it's not because they're foolish or they're devils or they're risky with their lives. No. Such is the connection. Such is the connection to the land. Such is the connection to the community, to the bucolic nature of St. Andrew itself. That is that hard to leave. And hardship, poverty, and I'm saying that that's an impoverished place, but even that cannot compel persons to want to leave certain parts of the Scotland district just because of nature, the vibe that it gives off. There's something special about the Scotland district. And I realize that Barbados, and many Barbadians are starting to realize how special that vibe, from as far as Bathsheba and even beyond Bathsheba, all the way down into to pass through Belle Plaine and into St. Peter. There's a special vibe that one gets when one even pass through there. Whereas when one lives there, it's even more so, more impactful. And that's what we've been seeing. And I sat here and I shared my heart smiled when I heard the member for St. Joseph speak about St. Joseph in that way, because I felt the same way about my St. Andrew, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, within this document, it speaks of Belle Plaine, St. Andrew being the center of the national park, being the focal point, being the town, the city. And I've been in talks with persons, business persons, persons who have interest in St. Andrew, or interest in Belle Plaine, and want to see it grow. And those persons would have sat down and explained to me their vision, and we would have discussed it. Because I too have a vision for where we want to see Belle Plaine and St. Andrew as a whole go. And we sat down, we discussed the building out of a city, because we understand the importance of Belle Plaine to that Scotland district. Even persons, in fact, I don't have the figures in front of me, but I've seen it somewhere, and I've heard it more than once. The vast majority of persons who visit Barbados find themselves in the Scotland district. In fact, worse than 90% of persons who come here, if you come to Barbados, going to the Scotland district is a must. It is a must. Prime Minister referred to it as the pride of place as it relates to Barbados, the most beautiful part of Barbados. But what is lacking, that's been lacking over time, is the build-out of the infrastructure. The build-out of the infrastructure. But we know with the development of the road infrastructure, eventually we will see the growth of the economy in that space, and we will then see the built infrastructure starting to take shape. We know this will come, and there are persons who are already putting plans in place to ensure that they benefit from this. And there are people in the community who are already putting things in place to make sure that the people in the community benefit from the build-out of Belle Plaine as it happens. As I said, the road infrastructure perhaps is our biggest challenge. Everybody knows that the roads in the Scotland district are deteriorating at a rapid rate. The member for St. Michael South East spoke to plans within her ministry, within our ministry, for the development of the Scotland district, the rehabilitation of the roads within the Scotland district, St. Joseph, St. Peter, St. Thomas, even St. Lucy. We're looking at the development of those roads, and we realize that working, one of the first things that you realize when you work in the Scotland district, and the fact that there's not been any major road development in recent times, a lot of persons who would have worked on the last of the roads or the existing roads would already be of blessed memory, some very old, but not any of our contemporaries would have the institutional knowledge that relates to roads, because it's been so long since major road works have been done. I remember a young person, maybe 26 or 27 years ago, when the former member for St. Andrew was, Mr. Payne was there. He would have done a number of roads in the Scotland district, but over 26 years, I think you got more than what one can reasonably expect out of a road. For the most part, you would get 10 good years out of a road, maybe 15 before that road starts to deteriorate. And that is a road that's built on a good, solid subgrade and subbase, which is technical terms for a good, solid foundation. But in the Scotland district, really subgrade itself is already compromised by underground springs and expansive soils that expand and extract when it rains. That's soils that are very responsive to rainfall, very responsive to climate change. Then you see how the life span of a road within the Scotland district is shortened. So to get 26 years out of a road is perhaps twice what one can really expect from a road that was built and designed in that period before climate change. But Mr. Speaker, now as a ministry and as the member for St. Andrew, I'm seeing to it now that a number of roads that have suffered over time from neglect are being given some love, as we say in the ministry, are being attended to. Even as we speak, Mr. Speaker, we have our contractors that are stockpiling material in King Street. They're stockpiling material in Whitehill, because we want that even when the firms, the contractors, the suppliers, when they're closed for the Christmas break on December the 21st, to reopen sometime in January, that we will not be restricted to start our work. If we intend to start on the 1st of January, we will not be restricted by the fact that we cannot source material. So we're stockpiling material now in King Street, and we're stockpiling material now in Whitehill. As just two examples of places where we know we're going to need a lot of marl. And I want to make the point right here, right now. I know that the minister, the member for St. Michael South East would have alluded to the fact that we are now seeing some light at the end of a tunnel, a long tunnel, where persons living in the Whitehill area from as far back as 2014 were cut off from the neighboring community of Hillaby. After some heavy rainfalls, we had some land slippage, and that community was cut off. For next year, it will be 10 years, for a decade, persons were cut off. And I'm happy to report right here in this Honourable chamber, Mr. Speaker, that today, just today, we've seen the reunification of Whitehill and Hillaby, the reunification of Whitehill to the surrounding community with the completion of the excavation and the laying of the link road that we have built to replace the breakaway area. What had happened, Mr. Speaker, is that we determined that the soils where the existing road was, the existing footprint, were soils, Joe River soils. I know the member for St. Joseph referred to this this morning in his presentation. They are Joe River soils, and these soils are not ideal for road construction. Even with the best engineering skills, it didn't make any sense to try to build back in the footprint. So we had to go wide and far and build around the area, the slip area. It required us acquiring a number of parcels of land, at least 14 parcels of land, displacing persons. But those persons, some of whom are just as happy, even though they're displaced from where they live, they're happy to see for the first time that a road can now lead from in Hillaby right into White Hill for the first time in just under a decade. So that is perhaps one of the symbolic victories that we can perhaps point to from this road rehabilitation program, because it means we have been connected. Now the road is not completed by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to require some additional work, some marling. It's going to require some rolling, some paving. But I am sure that come this Christmas, persons for the first time will be able to drive from Hillaby straight through White Hill and straight down into Baxter's for the first time in just under 10 years. I'm thankful for that. And the same thing can be said for K Street. Same thing can be said. We want, as soon as humanly possible, to reconnect those two roads, because those two roads, unlike other roads that we would have addressed in Scotland District, those two roads were practically impassable. Those two roads had collapsed. These are not roads that were chosen because they were in any particular geographical location. These roads were reduced in one case to just less than a one lane. These roads were roads that had communities cut off. There were persons living beyond these roads that could not get a garbage service, a pickup service. Ambulance wouldn't risk going up there. There were businesses up there that people would not, the trucks, the delivery trucks would not go up there. People had to walk down with pan carts to collect things. That was the situation when we went into King Street. The good people of the community attempted to fix the road themselves. But the reality was that the road was built on a slip plane, and it required more engineering, perhaps more creative engineering, in order to get that piece of road done. And that is perhaps why it failed and failed again. But this time, as the minister said, as a member for St. Michael South, he said, we're going in with a different plan, a different approach that also takes into account the institutional knowledge, the local knowledge of those persons who live within those communities, because very often that knowledge is discounted. Even if it's applied at the latter stages, sometimes it's required at the beginning, because there are things that people in the community who were living there for 70 years and 80 years can tell you about a community before it transforms, that you as an engineer coming in for the first time can never really appreciate. Or you can't see. And that is where we've been having challenges. And that's why going forward, not only are we going to incorporate all of the institutions within the Scotland District, including the Soil Conservation Unit, but we've also engaged those persons who have lived in those communities for years, just to give us some insight as to how it was, how water flowed naturally before before the roads were done, before houses were built, where land was built up. These types of questions help engineers to better design roads, because going forward in a world where climate change is going to become our norm, the most important component aspect of road building will not only be the pavement and how strong that pavement is, how flexible that pavement is, but it would be the drainage. How do we discharge water off the road as quickly as possible before it can further cause the road to degrade? You have to get that water discharged. Even in sitting down and listening to engineers internationally, that's the biggest issue. If you can get that water discharged, if you can get that water off the road as quickly as possible, then that road can be preserved for a much longer time. And that is where we're going to put a lot of the effort, especially in the Scotland District, where he said the soils are expansive and very responsive to intense rainfall. That's where we're going to put a lot of the effort, ensure that those waters are removed from the surface of the road as quickly as possible. But I just mentioned that because I wanted persons to know that we are working hard to ensure that Belle Plaine has as little challenges as possible in attaining that city designation, that central focal point designation. And connectivity would not be, as long as I'm able to having a say about it, would not be the issue that will impact Belle Plaine from seeing its full potential. And the same thing can be said for the surrounding areas, because I am often accused of being laser focused. Let me put it like that. But I've taken it upon myself to ensure that not only the arteries leading into from Belle Plaine into Bridgetown and into St. James and St. Thomas, but I'm ensuring that other areas, Fruitful Hill going into St. Joseph, Hillby Road going into St. Thomas, Content, all these areas, we've been working hard to ensure as much as possible that these roads start in as soon as possible time. It has to happen. It makes no sense having one section of the Scotland District being rehabilitated in terms of their roads and other sections that lead right into the same place, roads in the state. So that's why we've been working hard to ensure that Indian Ground through Robert down to Fort Hill, these are the roads that are going to start as a matter of priority. Forest Spring, down to Content, down to Short Hill. These are roads that have been prioritized because these are also main arteries into that Scotland District. And we see the importance of that. The Ermborn Highway, as it extends beyond Barclays Park and into Cattle Wash, those are roads that we're looking at to ensure that those roads are done in the soonest possible time. And also, we're also looking at the other areas that are failing across the Scotland District. We see roads like Melvin's Hill failing, Mellows failing. And the truth is, we in this country are seeing as I say, a conspiracy of events that are happening at the same time, where we have roads and bridges in the Scotland District, many of which were built on mud, because one of the things about Scotland District is that there's not a lot of rock that you can find anywhere. You may find some rock in St. Joseph, but you're hardly going to find any rock in parts of St. Andrew. So a lot of these bridges are built on mud. Many of these bridges were built 50 and 60 years ago. So they're old. Many of these bridges were designed for donkey cart, maybe 1 or 2 trucks. But we are seeing now increased vehicular loading on our roads. We have a country now, we have over 100,000 cars, heavy trucks, heavy buses. And we're seeing that. So you have increased vehicles, heavier vehicles, old bridges, and roads built on mud, and bridges built on mud. And all these things are now conspiring now to ensure that as many roads as possible become unsafe. So every week or so, we're seeing another road, whether the culvert is collapsing. Yesterday we had at the corner of Isolation Road, a culvert collapse. Just yesterday, we sent in a team this morning to put an iron plate there so we can get a little time so we can fix that. Joy Road in St. Joseph, we see a culvert collapse. We sent a team in there to work on that as well. Melvin Hill, we're working on that. Mellows Road is collapsing. So we're seeing all these things happen at the same time. And these are things that happen after we have looked at roads as priority roads. So after we've identified 10, 20, 30 roads as priority roads, then we're seeing other roads now starting to come apart within that Scotland District. So it's a race against the clock. It's a race against the clock. And yes, we would like to fix each and every one of them at the same time. But the reality is that we cannot, even if we had another $1 billion, we could not fix all of the roads at the same time, because it's going to require a certain amount of sequences because we don't have that many roads leading in and out of the Scotland district, certainly not in and out of St. Joseph, not in and out of St. Andrew. So we have to sequence it in such a way that we do some in St. Andrew, then we do some in St. Peter, and then we do 1 or 2 in St. Joseph, we do 1 or 2 in St. Lucy. So even when persons are seeing things happen in one community, the reality is we need that little wiggle room. Well, so a person can still get in and out. Well, one road is being done, persons can still get in and out of communities, because if we shut off a road, especially if we use the Scotland district, the road leads from Sturgis into Lakes, Springville. That road has about 3 or 4 bridges on there. And if you were to close all of that road and try to do all those bridges at the same time, that road would probably be closed for another 2 years. Given the amount of time it takes sometimes to build a bridge, and the professional disagreement and the planning that goes into bridge building, even though we have employed technology, have been using bridges, metal bridges that could be deployed at a much faster rate, and as say a concrete or precast bridge, it's still going to take a lot of time if we were to try to do everything at the same time. So I just want to put out there that a lot of effort is being put in place to ensure that the infrastructure that leads throughout the Scotland district and connects all those smaller communities together is being worked on even as we speak. Wish it could be faster, but we can only do what we can, and I can only ask that persons be patient. I know that within 3 to 4, 5 years, we will see that entire Scotland district transform as the roads and so on and so forth are fixed, and persons can easily drive down there without the risk of doing any damage to their vehicles. And what you will see after that is done, we have started to see it already. We see cultural events and sports tourism and all such like starting to return to the Scotland district, certainly started to return to the East Coast. Just last week we had Run Barbados. There's no coincidence that they came down to the East Coast. I mean, who wouldn't want to come and run on the East Coast? Huh? Who wouldn't want to promote Barbados by using the East Coast? Who wouldn't? As a place for sports tourism. Of course, it's a natural thing. My only thing is this, is that be conscious when these events come, the meetings and the other events that we welcome. And we're glad that you've chosen St. Andrew and the Run Barbados, that even in your planning, that you spare thought for the residents, because sometimes many of these events, the rallies and the marathons, when they come to the community, sometimes they cause some inconvenience to the residents. Now, the inconvenience is expected. If you're going to have persons coming into our communities to have major events, national events, we know that there will be some inconvenience, but every year, I would not want the problem that exists last year be amplified this year or exacerbated this year, but rather do a postmortem and see what people were complaining about, whether it was that the bus route was cut off for 5 hours, whether it was that persons could not get to work on that particular day at all, whether it was that there were no provisions for breaks in between the stages. We look at those things and correct those things next year so that the events and the people in the community can all be in harmony. Because we welcome you, but not at the inconvenience of persons, to the extent that persons' livelihoods are placed in jeopardy. I just putting that out there, that these are things that you have to think about. If nobody says anything, then the same thing may continue over and over and over. So I'm saying it on behalf of the people in the Belle Plaine area, right? We need to have that, just engage with the people, liaise with the people, talk to the people, and the people will find a way that we all can work together with the understanding that, we welcome you, and we know that there will be some inconvenience, but they also bring some enfranchisement and some economic activity to the community. So those are some of the things I see coming. But we also doing our own indigenous things in St. Andrew, where we are building out our own space. If I look at the three examples I can think of where we are giving back to Barbados. St. Andrew has always given to Barbados. We've always given to Barbados. As far back as 1968, we've had what we refer to as the sand hole, what people refer to as the sand quarry. And people will tell you that every aspect of Barbados has a little piece of St. Andrew in it. Every single built facility in Barbados has a little piece of sand that came from St. Andrew. Even Kensington over where I am heading to as soon as I finish my presentation has a little piece of St. Andrew in it. And we have been given to St. Andrew, and now we are giving to St. Andrew our cultural pastimes, our indigenous pastimes. We have now repackaged, we have now rebranded, and we're given to Barbados. We're telling you, come to St. Andrew and enjoy St. Andrew life, like how St. Andrew people enjoy St. Andrew life. Crab night, St. Andrew Carnival, Long Pond Cookout. All these things are just indigenous things that we would have done as young people. I mean, these things were going on long before I went to St. Andrew. I don't want to take credit for the creation of any of those events. There was a carnival long before I went there. Crab night was going on for over 20 years. The cookout was going on for just as long. But these are unique experiences that one can only enjoy in St. Andrew, that we are now telling the rest of Barbados, you are welcome to come. You're welcome to come to St. Andrew and vibe with us, relax with us. We have all forms of tourism. We don't have the nice beaches like what they have on the West Coast, but nice for swimming, like on the West Coast and the South Coast. But we have a different kind of life. We have Long Pond Beach, we have Long Pond, we have that cookout experience, that outdoor experience, that rustic experience. Boy, not to mention our cricket grounds, our isolation cricket grounds. Teams that come from England every year. I mean, even before I was aware of its importance, I would often pass there and see touring teams from England, touring teams from Australia, wherever cricket is played, always found themselves right there in St. Andrew because of the cool vibe, because of the beautiful, bucolic nature of St. Andrew.
Do I remember has 2 more minutes? If you don't want 2 more minutes, I can take the 2 minutes from you, Honourable.
I'm moving on, Mr. Speakers. And thank you for the 2 minutes. But sometimes when I start to speak of how beautiful St. Andrew as a parish is, sometimes I get carried away. I would never believe I was speaking for 28 minutes.
No, you were speaking actually for more than 30 minutes, but I've given you 2 extra minutes.
I appreciate it. As I said, let me just look back at the plan, physical development plan. It speaks to some of the challenges and as it relates to development of the area. I'm just making the point that a lot of those challenges we are facing head on. We are fixing them. We're fixing them in rows. We've created spaces for cultural expression. The church, I want to mention it here, the Anglican Church, saw it fit to give up 7 acres of their land, 7 acres of arable land to people within the St. Andrew, boys on the block, from within that St. Andrew community, so that they can engage in agriculture. Sure. Yes, and for security, it's this.
Sorry, sir.
It's okay. It's okay.
Cut the arm.
And the church has seen it fit to give that land to those young people who to this day are working that land, are producing food on that land. And this is all this is all envisioned in the national in the plan, because we see St. Andrew as a breadbasket. We know that food can be grown there, but there's still a lot of land in St. Andrew that is not cultivated. And I was glad to see that area, which was a forest. And with the help of the Ministry of Agriculture through the Soil Conservation Unit, the Ministry of Youth, who would have identified the young persons from their block program, and their new Project Dawn, I think that was the name, Project Dawn. They would have identified young persons, given them the tools and the skills to go in there and to cultivate that land and to produce food on that land. And I was able to be down there at some point, just passing through, and was given a big bag of food that I could even use all myself. I had to then donate some of that same food to some of my other constituents right across the constituency. But in fact was that persons were able in a position to give me food from land that they would have worked and grown that food on right next door to their houses, anything. So as I close, Mr. Speaker, and to be honest with you, I have not spoken to half the things that I wanted to speak to as it relates to what's going on in Belle Plaine and what's going on in St. Andrew. But I think I've painted a picture of the potential for the Belle Plaine area. I've painted a picture for the vision that we have for that space, and the fact that we are now on the up and up. We are on the up and up. And I'm sure that whenever that day comes, and I hang up my hat, and I retired from this public life, that St. Andrew will be a completely different place, completely transformed place from what it is today. Mr. Speaker, with those few words, I'm a pleasure.
Honourable Member St. Michael East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member that spoke before me gave me the assurance that we only need 15 runs in order to be victorious. But obviously he decided to go a little further and provide the public with an exhibition of St. Andrew. I might do very much like him because I have to speak about Lickridge Village, the Ivy, and what the Ivy is not as a district, but represents a people. So therefore it represents the people in Bush Hall, Bank Hall, Carrington Village, the ghettos, so to speak, the Pine. So it might turn out to be national, but I represent the parochial layman, regional layman, obviously Barbadian layman. My politics, I understand from the rum shops in the Ivy and from the rum shop at the corner of Lickridge Village. Sir, and you and I sometimes inviting the spirits in different working class communities. And when I think about development, I am not trapped in the metropolitan man's politics. I do not take my politics from political economists of the US who've got a strong industrial base, development in relation to their economies. I take my politics in relation to the struggles of the Caribbean man. And that is why George Beckford, Clive Thomas, some of the best, Gervan, people like Lloyd Bess, those people also influence my thinking, which I believe expresses the negatives in the economy and have a different definition of what development is supposed to be. It is not meant to be a criticism. The simplistic understanding is when you don't always agree with a fixed universal definition of the word, you are deemed to be doing something which you should not do. I don't want to use no word to describe myself, no adjectives in the circumstances, sir. But the reality is that we have a Caribbean model. And the model comes out of the plantation economy. Whether it's the infrastructure or not, what we have seen over the years, even with many development plans, not critical of this plan, yes, we are moving forward, and we have seen major leaps, especially in the 20th century, in terms of development that came from Caribbean thinkers, not just politicians, but other professions, other people with different skills, different disciplines, express their views on how we need to move forward. Sometimes somebody take the perspective from how we need to go forward in terms of health, our health policy, our educational policy, our housing policy. But at the end of the day, from the time Columbus come to the Caribbean, black people experience poverty, and the poverty levels are still high. And every now and then a new government comes to power and talk around this specific issue of poverty and speak in terms of the metropolitan concept of development. I've been in this party and I saw a period where we deliberately focus our thoughts and our action and our mouthings on the eradication of poverty. It is still a major method of determining what our development policy ought to be. I can't be representing the constituency and talking about all these glorious things, and I don't take into consideration the mouthings of the people that I represent. The people in my community would want to know, what kind of man is this? He should be the echo of our thoughts and our feelings. And if I come here and talk about what we are going to be doing on the coastal area, if we're going to extend the highway, but you know, you got people in Lickridgeville that walk on paved roads with large toes protruding, people stumping their toes and breaking off heels in the train line. And by this time, we should not have that problem to address. So the development policy still needs to reach out into the communities and address these issues, because we might be engaged in here in a form of psychological masturbation. Everybody feeling very good about what we're doing, but then when we get back into the streets tomorrow morning, the discussion has subsided. The people ask, so what are you doing about this? I live in a community, sir, that even the state tried in the 20th century, after the 1950s or so, the state tried to address housing for the poor. And then when the people got the houses, they could not pay the rent. I believe that the rent arrears is extremely high. Probably close to over 50% of those tenants in the houses cannot pay rent. Is it not an issue that we need to look at? I don't know if there's any generalizations in the development plan that took into consideration the large numbers of persons who are at present facing eviction. And that is why sometimes I speak more of homelessness than speak about housing. Because this debate on housing can become very distorted. And sometimes it is a major paradox in talking about improved housing conditions and believing that what we're saying in here is what other people outside don't have a house or live in a house that is only considered to be a 4x6 little unit that you live in, and you can't enjoy the privileges like anybody else. The debate is not theirs, because when they talk about a house, they just want somewhere to live. We had a problem, we had a policy once, sir, that if you had no money, and you had 3 children, nobody questioned your personal life. The welfare department would send you to the National Assistance Board. and a poor man can find somewhere to sleep. That was the kind of child house that, well, I don't even think they had indoor water toilet facilities or anything like that. I don't know. I know sometimes my friends in here, when they're talking about housing, they say, I would like to go back to the child house. You can't go back to the child house. Because all of these policies, all the programs got to emerge out of some experience of the people. And the only reason we had charter houses is because the plantation decided that if you want to work here, you must keep your house here. And if you want to go elsewhere, take the house with you. And sir, you and I most of us here would have seen many Sunday mornings before 7 o'clock. You would see a truck passing down the road. The truck had on the whole house one time. One time. I was, yes, development occurred. We move away from that. I don't agree with anybody who says that they would like to go back to the child house. I know how it emerged. I know the history of the birth of a child house. I would assume that that's a part of humor in the conversations that we are having here today, sir. But I have persons who never had the opportunity to flush a toilet yet. Never, they don't know what it is. A document on development must address these disadvantages to the poor people. Poverty is not a criticism of any specific minister or government policy. I am trying to add to the thinking. Just like, although I'm not on there, equal, just like what Lloyd Best was saying to us, just like what George Beckford was saying to us, and many of the other thinkers of the time. Clive Thomas was saying to us in Persistent Poverty by Beckford, and the poor and the powerless. Address the issue of poverty, the major issue that we are facing in these colonies is that we all live through abject poverty. There's no debating. There can't be no poverty more than you not having food to eat. And if you're seeing rising unemployment issues, you don't have to debate, because hunger is not debatable. Everybody knows very well persons in their neighborhood that are suffering. In order to create a more holistic approach to addressing poverty and development, you must hear the voice of the people who are more oppressed, alienated from all the happiness that other people enjoy in the society. And I represent a community that is very concerned about that. I also believe that there's a need for a new design of NHC units. So all those people talking about environment and so on, the NHC units, sometimes the heat in those units that are made of 4-inch blocks is extremely hot. Poor ventilation. In some of the houses, one side don't have windows or doors. And in many cases, I can tell you that if you go to St. Barnabas on the hill, you will see housing units that to the eastern side that you would be of the opinion that there's a necessity for ventilation to come through the eastern side. Those are issues that people who live in poverty are experiencing. I have parts of my community that don't have water. Water is a big issue. So you know that the personal health standards are challenged because you don't have water. I've been waiting, sir, and because of the gradualists in terms of action, not talking, because sometimes gradualists talk swiftly, and you get the impression that a gradualist is a revolutionary. But after talking, nothing happens. I'm talking about moving ideas from off the documentation into the community and seeing the actual changes. It might not be a minister's problem, but wherever that bottleneck exists, you have to remove it or get around it one way or the other and deliver. People are becoming a little disenchanted with the commitments, the sounding commitments, and coming to the conclusion that they're not actually commitments. In my area, that's why I tell you, I don't think I have any unique problem. I am speaking for the poor people across Barbados, especially the urban poor. That's why I say I don't speak for the Ivy alone. The ideas might come from within the Ivy. I don't speak for Lickridgeville alone, sir, and I believe that repetition is a necessity here now. I don't speak for the area alone, I speak for the Pine too, in Golden Rock, and Lasses Terrace, and Princess Royal Avenue. That is where poverty exists. So when we have a development plan, the people must feel an integral part of the development plan. Even if you say, come on board, listen to us. Let's have rubbing shoulders. But we need to see the development following. I believe that is quite easy to understand. I also feel, sir, and I know how important cricket as an institution is to all of us, but I will never neglect the people's business to go to cricket. I know most of us, when we could not communicate as effectively as the most persons in here could communicate now. The only thing that we knew well is known, sir. As we develop, we learn more adjectives and adverbs. So we learn to strengthen language and give the language melody. And in those days, we used to use the cricket parlance. So you hear people talk outside the off stump. So I understand when a man has to balance the interest between representing his people as a parliamentarian, sometimes you want to enjoy cricket as a sport. But the same parliamentarians criticize cricketers when they don't deliver. But then they want to go to cricket. I am glad to know, sir, that even though I came at the 11th hour, I was quite willing to give away to other persons who probably has greater foresight and creativity than I. That I have stood here to do the business of the people, and I hope the cricketers will do the business of the people of Barbados as well, sir. But I am asking for, I am at the mercy of the cabinet of Barbados and the Prime Minister, sir. I don't want to leave politics at any time without knowing that the way I found my constituency when I came here in the 1990s, that I am not going to be leaving it in the same state that I found it. So I am going to express my views on any development plan as long as I can't see water through Lickridge Village, through Howells Crossroad. I told you I'm a parochial man. I am a layman of the region. I will speak in those terms always. I am not a metropolitan boy or man. So I do not speak as though I understand the globe, the complexity of the globe, the political economy of the globe, the sociology of the globe. So I got to understand the interests of the people of St. Michael's East. Or at the end of the day, when they get back there, sir, we have good communities all around us, but we're faced with people who are landless. You and I, sir, know very well the desperation of people who are landless. And with all the restrictions that we put, people still go and build. They don't even build chattel houses. Because chattel houses belongs to the days of yore. Not now. They want the best like everybody else. And you have to be down there giving legal advice and pleading and trying to see if we can get government to resolve issues and how we're going to make sure we put the required regulations in place in order to create a better environment for these people. But what do you do when people don't have anywhere to live? You sleeping comfortably, got about 60 bedrooms in your house. You don't know where to sleep at night. These people, they have nowhere to sleep. And a development plan must address that. A development plan must take into consideration the evidence is there that most of the housing areas, the residents had to extend the facilities in order to accommodate family, in order to accommodate the extended family. That is what I'm talking about in relation to persistent poverty. Poverty all around us every day. And that is why we can't walk the beach late at night. Because if I feel that you have cash and you're walking across the beach late at night and I don't have any cash, I will try to get it. That is what is happening in this society. If we don't moralize the lives and sanitize the lives of some of these unfortunate individuals in the society, then you get the challenges, sir. Attorneys at law can become very wealthy in 24 hours. Because everybody wants to live. Everybody wants to live. I want to live. And I would like to live good too, like everybody else. And a development plan must have at the center of what ought to be radical and profound thoughts about the quality of life of people. Fact that nobody likes to live a life knowing that they're not wanted. There are many people who believe, sir. There are many people who believe that politicians don't care about them. You just want the vote. There are many people who hear from politicians the day after the win, this is my last term. They didn't say it the day before. Politicians know who own when they win. I tell you, I was in this business long. A development plan must take into consideration the social welfare state of the people. The welfare state is being challenged as a result of institutions, external, international institutions rather, who think that they ought to govern governments. And in order for you to have this, you have to give up that. And while we still hold nominally the institutions by name, rather, the institutions now are not as effective as they ought to be. Life becomes harder. All kinds of new arrangements is being placed on the table for workers in social services. Rather than being employees, though, you're a contract worker. And when a contract worker hurts, his or her ankle break, a leg, or get cut, he receives no income, wages or salary, he receives none, but he still got to go to a doctor and look for medical attention, and he ain't got the money. So he ends up at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital waiting 3 or 4 days for service. Development plan has to take all those things into consideration. Every day in my constituency, people ask me, what are you know in this job? And I thought I would get vacation. The officers are now telling us, you can get vacation, but you can't get no money. There's no vacation pay. These are realities. And we are faced, it's not because I'm demonizing anybody. These are real issues that we have to discuss as a people in this House of Assembly. It is hard. You know what it is a woman working at NCC or any of these agencies and go to work using a whacker and a hoe? People passing that don't like to work at all are going to the air conditioning room and denouncing them. Look how she dressed, look how he dressed. And you don't enjoy the services that these same people enjoy? Can't get free medical attention. Can't even get to... This morning, a young man came to me, sir, with this issue. And I told him where to go. I told him when they get down here, I would speak to the minister and see if we can make an arrangement for him. He asked me if we could come and take him from his house to the minister's office. I said, where this is going on now? He ain't got no bus fare, he ain't working the way. We have to tend to these issues. All I'm saying that there is a trend in our lives in the Caribbean and in Barbados, a common chord of poverty that we need to focus on. And the last Barbados Labour Party government on Leaf Owen-Arthur put a policy in place where tenantry roads, we had to identify urban tenantry roads, rural tenantry roads, and we made major physical transformations across Barbados as a result of using concrete from the cement plant that kept people employed at the cement plant. And people were able to walk out their houses when it was raining or not, cross those concrete roads in the tenantries across Barbados. That is a development plan that was not just tossing around ideas and scripting notes. It was a development plan that you could see the actualities of it manifesting itself just before your eyes. And that is what, sir, I am begging for. That's what I'm begging for. You know, you read these documents and everything look real good, but then you're going to send them to people to implement or to execute. And it don't work the way how we discuss it. It is not Singapore. We've got some rigidity in how we govern because we talk about a democratic society and we got to do it in this so-called democratic way. No, my whole Westerners it is, right? We got to do it in a democratic way. So all I'm saying to you, I know it's a late hour, and I know you still want to go to pray, but all I'm saying to you is these simple ideas. I hope that you consider them, sir, and all of my colleagues worthy. That for me, if we can't do these things, we will fail the Caribbean people and more particularly the Barbadian people. But I honestly support the document, but I believe that the document cannot go without facing a critique that at least will help us to even do better at this juncture than we have done before. So, sir, with those few words, I'm glad that you embraced me in the discussions. I'm assuming that you agree with most of the things that you say.
Honourable Member for Christchurch West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First, let me thank all of those honourable members who contributed to this debate. Clearly a very, very important and wide-ranging debate to have gone over 2 full days. And in fact, I've been started this morning and going at 6. I promise not to be very long. I think there's very little that I could now bring up that one of the honourable members would not have brought up during the course of the 2 days of the debate, except to add a few other things from my perspective and to try to answer 1 or 2 things that people would have brought up. Now, before I get into that, let me first say that the Planning and Development Department has done tremendous work over the last 5 years. The member for St. George South spoke about the numbers of permissions that they were able to do. In fact, 9,617 permissions over the last 5 years is a tremendous measure of the work that they have done. But, Mr. Speaker, you know, people think about permissions, but permissions is only a small part of the work that the Planning and Development Department does. Because in addition to the permissions, they also have to do what's called building starts, which means that every time that you go and actually start the building to make sure that you're within the boundaries, you call them so they come and measure so that you don't go and build a whole structure and then find out that you're too close to the northern boundary, the southern boundary, or the road reserve, or whatever it is. They did 2,951 of those too, in addition to the permissions. And again, that is not all that they do. Because in addition to building starts, in addition to the 9,000 permissions, they also have to do something called Certificate of Compliance. And they did almost 2,300 of those as well. So you can imagine the amount of work that a small department was able to do in 5 years to be able to lift and give people of Barbados an opportunity to develop their house, to develop their business, all sorts of infrastructural things, even bridges, whatever. And I am happy and proud to be able to lead a department that is really firing on all cylinders. And I would, from this honourable chamber, salute them for the work that they have done and continue to do for the people of Barbados. In addition, Mr. Speaker, I want specifically to answer a few things. And I go back to this concept of Barbados developing only in a few areas. Not so. And I have this map that shows the 9,000 permissions that were given. Yes, Barbados develops coastally, the South Coast and the West Coast. But we've also had significant permissions given in the rural areas as well. St. George, in fact, St. George and St. Philip tend to be the growth centers for development. And also we have had permissions given in the Scotland district, including St. Joseph, St. John, parts of St. Andrew have also gotten permission. So there's
I don't remember that's part of the document.
This is part of the document, yes. This is part of the physical development plan. It's just one of the plans that I pulled out, but it is part of the document that is clearly there as part of the resolution. So permissions have been given across Barbados. And what is also interesting, Mr. Speaker, is of the 9,000 permissions, only 200 refusals. So small percentage of refusals, which says that even if you have an application in that needs tweaking, that needs adjusting, what do? We don't refuse it. We call you in. We say, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do to amend the application so that everybody gets an opportunity to get their application in. Those that can't be amended, they withdraw. 73 withdrawals. So, but what it shows is that everybody gets an opportunity. The vast proportion of percentage of people that make an application do get through. The downside, because of the quantum of applications, it takes time. And that is something that we're working on constantly, upgrading the software, making it online, having an online portal, all of those things to be able to make applications easier and more seamless. And it is a work in progress. It is not perfect. Perfection is divine. And we are certainly not perfect. And, you know, as they say all the time, perfection is the greatest impediment to progress. So we are working towards it. We're not going to achieve it. But every day we're going to try to make it as seamless, as effective, and as efficient that we can so that the people of Barbados can benefit and be able to develop their various lots and so on. Mr. Speaker, we live in changing times, changing weather patterns, intense rainfalls in short period of time, hurricanes, flooding, climate change, beach erosion is the order of the day. And we have to understand that planning must take into account that side of things. Planning also has to take into account economic growth. Planning has to take into account, apart from resilience, apart from economic growth, the people. And I heard the member for St. Peter talk about planning taking the people. This whole document is about the people. Because the people, this is where people live, work, recreate, enjoy amusements, dine out, eat in, invest. Everything in these documents is about the people, enhancing the people, those in poverty, the whole thing. But you know, Mr. Speaker, we have to understand that form and function is a balance. And it is balancing all the various aspects of developing a whole country. And it means water resources must be balanced for water needed for agriculture versus water needed for residences. It means balancing investment for bigger business versus investment for smaller businesses. It means balancing access to the beach versus foreign direct investment. All of these things come in to making a physical development plan and trying to get the best out of the resources and the limited land space that we have. And that is what this document is trying to do. We, Mr. Speaker, have worked bringing all the departments together, bringing all of the ideas together, all of the perspectives together. Will everybody get everything they want? No, they won't. But will we all collectively get a better and have gotten a better document and by extension a pathway towards a better society and a better country? I believe yes. I believe what this document will now do is it gives us an opportunity for us to make better decisions, seeing how things are interrelated, understanding the interrelations, and understanding how various zones can develop across the country. Seeing how the port can develop, seeing how the airport can develop. How does that relate to the sewage system? How does that relate to access to beaches? Are we going to look how we are looking at water taxis and water transport? Transportation is a major issue in this country. A major issue. Many members spoke about it. And what we're looking at, nodal transportation, park and ride, developing a better transport infrastructure system. All of these things coming together in one document, a far-reaching document, but a document that touches many, many aspects of lives in Barbados. This, Mr. Speaker, has been a historic debate. It has encouraged many, many people to contribute, and I am sure that once it's passed in the other place and then becomes accepted as the physical development plan of Barbados, and incidentally the only one in the Caribbean, that this is a document that not only the department, not only all the various ministries and departments that contributed, but the people of Barbados can be justly proud. It is a document that we've worked on for years to be able to bring it to this place, and I am justly proud that this is something that we've been able to achieve. And now I would ask, humbly so, that this resolution do now pass.
The question is that this resolution do now pass. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it. This resolution stands passed.
Thank you, Mr.
Honourable
Speaker.
Leader of Government Business.
I beg to move the adjournment of the House until Tuesday, December 19th at 10 a.m.
The question is that this honourable chamber be adjourned until Tuesday, the 19th day of December 2023 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 19th day of December 2023 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.